What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to a Monday edition of House Divided. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings. Together, we're both the men in gray today. We don't plan these things. Sometimes it just happens that way. Glad to be with you on a Monday. We got a bunch to get into. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, get notifications if you haven't already done so. We are creeping closer to 18,000 subscribers. I'm a little surprised it's taken this long, but nevertheless, here we are on our way to 8 billion served. Mr. Hastings, how are you today?
I'm doing very, very well. Very well. Lots of good news, Ketch. Not only is the sky extra blue because of what the Cowboys did to the Eagles last night. That was great. After the show on Friday, the Washington hat arrived, so the Hall of Helmets is ready to roll. We got Texas and Washington right here. We got Alabama and Michigan over here. Got other bowl games represented, including that Texas State bowl game. Shout out to our man Blake for getting me that Texas State helmet. So Hall of Helmets is ready. Cowboys beat the Eagles, and we're 3 weeks away from the CFP today. 21 days from now, Bama and Michigan, followed by Texas and Washington. Can't wait.
What it means is the Longhorns are almost ready to resume practicing because you get 15 practices, 21 days till the game. It's almost time for football to resume on the collegiate level. The bowl games aren't quite arriving yet, but the Longhorns will be back at practice, preparing for the biggest game in half a generation of Longhorn football. So, of course, there's a lot of stuff to look forward to. Got a lot of recruiting stuff to talk about today. Got a lot of portal stuff to talk about. The Longhorns on the cusp of potentially adding a couple of 5-stars. Potentially on the cusp of adding some portal additions that I think will 100% make next year's team stronger. And oh, by the way, let's just take a moment. We're going to look. We got Jason Suchol joining us at 120. We've got buy or sell. We'll have the crap bag. We're going to do a game of Blinko today. So there's a lot of stuff that we're planning on. You and I need to take 2 minutes to just revel, bathe in what was a very fun beatdown of the Philadelphia Eagles last night. I mean, come on, let's just take a moment. It felt good. That's, the thing about sports, people, whenever you compare things to sex, people will be like, no, nothing compares to sex. Look, I love sex. It makes me feel good. And you know what else makes me feel good? My sports team's kicking ass. So you can say it's not like sex. Last night, that was some tantric 3 hours. I wish it never stopped sex. It was amazing. It doesn't change the way I think about these Cowboys, Chad, but it made me feel so good. And I've been through a lot. It's like the Longhorns. I've been through a lot of Cowboys seasons where they don't make me feel good. This is a Cowboys team that no matter how this season ends, it has made me feel good a number of times.
Yeah, and in fact, this first super chat today, I'll have you just feel even better and keep going. Paul says for $4.99, happy Monday. Ketch looks like a monk. Ketch, can you give me like a chant, some kind of a monk chant that also expresses your feelings about the Cowboys beating the Eagles? Can you do that for me?
Add sports sex. There you go.
That was good. That was good.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you.
Or anybody else that was out there, anybody that helped contribute. I'm open-minded that how we got to where we were last night. I'm open-minded. If Buddha was involved, thank you to him or her too. All I know is that Mondays are just better when the Cowboys win, but Mondays are even better when they put a beat down on the Eagles. And to know that in Philadelphia today, all the shows that are being done, people are angry. People are questioning the Eagles and the coaching staff and whether they're good enough or not. Now, I know that it's not all because of what the Cowboys did last night, that it's a combo of what the 49ers and the Cowboys have done to them in the last 2 weeks. But I always get as much gratification from the Eagles suffering as I do from the Cowboys winning. So when the two happen at the same time,
oh, it's beautiful. Praise be to Dak and Parsons. Yeah.
Look, I'll even make room for Satan if he's gonna let like the Cowboys beat the Eagles by 3 touchdowns happen. I'm good. Come on. Whoever's responsible, I love you.
Yeah, this whole like, yeah, here we go thing. I'm really enjoying that. That was if it's gonna work like that, that's beautiful. Thank you for that super chat early on. We will definitely take those super chats.
Hey,
yeah, so much good theater going around.
JD, I'm open-minded.
Hey, I don't know about
witch doctors were involved. Thank you, witch doctors.
So, Ketch, here's a team maybe somebody wouldn't have thought of watching that game, but remember the Super Bowl 44 champion New Orleans Saints? Remember the Drew Brees team that won the Super Bowl?
Oh, yeah.
The thing about that defense that was interesting, when you have defenses that get a lot of turnover, sometimes you look at it and go, yeah, well, you can't count on that game in and game out. Well, sometimes that's just the other team being sloppy or whatever. But this Dan Quinn Cowboys defense goes after turnovers. They create them. And the great defenses we get to watch sometimes do that. And the fact that and not just anybody, they didn't go after some third string receiver. It wasn't some just, random fullback. They forced a Hurts fumble. They forced a Smith fumble. They forced a Brown fumble in big moments of that game.
They all got a piece of it. I loved it.
They're freaking Hawks, man. They're plus 10, and that's the defense I thought of watching it, because as great as Drew Brees and that offense were that year, that was another element of that team. That New Orleans Saints defense wanted the ball, and they were going to take it from you a lot, and you had to be real careful when you played them. So it was a great performance. It was dominating, and I loved every second of it. My God, what a kicker the Dallas Cowboys have gotten in this dude. The USFL, spring football, producing more NFL talent. It does happen every once in a while. My man hit 59 and 60 in the same game. Nobody's ever done it in NFL history. He added 2 more. They had to give him a game ball on NBC. My Lord.
My favorite part of that was when they gave him the game ball, it was as if he had just got finished watching Bull Durham. It's like, oh, I got to thank the good Lord and keep my head down and go through my routines, and good Lord willing, I'll just make some kicks. Man, that dude deserved to get up on national TV and wild out a little bit.
Yeah.
He should have DMX'd it. Like there was all kinds of stuff. DMX it. Degeneration. What was I'm Degeneration X. I'm all mixed up in my wrestling rap metaphors today. All I know is that I enjoy field goals. It's like, let that man kick from 70. I'm okay with it. It was a lot of fun. And the exhilaration from like a performance like that, you just don't get to tap into that many times in life. I watched the Kansas City Chiefs last night, and the way that game ended against the Bills. That's a Chiefs team that's won Super Bowls, plural, recently. And you think about what losing does to your mind, body, and soul. And it really, almost watching that a little bit helped me enjoy the Cowboys perform. We won't always get that. Dan Quinn is not going to be the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys forever. Like it's, yeah. We won't always have him, and the defense won't always be like that. So while we have it, I'm not even going to look at this through the prism of if we only win a Super Bowl, that's the only way this season is memorable or fun. I'm trying to enjoy the good times, not worry about whether or not we're going to have a home playoff game. They're 10-3, may not play a playoff game at home. I'm not going to sweat it right now. I'm just going to enjoy the good times when they come, because as a sports fan, there are many more bad times than there are exhilarating times. So when the exhilarating times happen, You have to enjoy them. And I did think a lot about the Longhorns last night. Imagine being a combo Cowboy Longhorn fan this year, where there have been some seasons where it's like, Chad, you know what I hate? The weekends. You know what I love? Working Monday through Friday and never being disturbed by the teams that I give my mind, body, and soul to. And I couldn't help but think about on Orange Bloods or here on Orange Bloods Live, the number of people, they're just in good moods and having good years in part because the sports teams are delivering the goods. Apologies to the Aggies and Chad out there who haven't quite had the same combo level of success that Cowboy fans and Longhorn fans have had. But even the Aggie Cowboy combo, he's got the Cowboys to lean on this year. It almost feels wasteful to have so much good all at the same time.
Doesn't feel wasteful. I'm enjoying every bit of it.
Yeah. No, I meant,
Yeah, no, and yeah, I know. And I thought of those double fans too. My Aggie shouldn't be discussed in this kind of happiness right now. But yeah, the Cowboy and Longhorn fans, I was trying to think of when is the last time that fan could argue that their two teams are, we obviously know, are in the top 4 and 1. And I would argue might be in the top 4 of both. When is the last time that argument actually made sense? When's the last time you wouldn't get laughed at if you said, hey, Longhorns and Cowboys, top 4 right now? It's like, it's been a while.
I think the Cowboys are one of the best 3 teams in the NFL. And it kind of sucks that the best 3 teams are probably all in the NFC. Because I think if you put either the 49ers, the Cowboys, or the Eagles in the AFC, this might be a year where they just would be the Chiefs aren't quite the Chiefs. That's a team that, hey, Eric Bieniemy has never looked better than when you watch a Chiefs game. Now, they ain't got no wide receivers. So it ain't like Eric Bieniemy is out there catching passes, but they look like a team that's missing a little something. I don't know that I completely buy into the Dolphins, although who knows, maybe in the next couple of weeks, they'll convince me when they play the Cowboys. But yeah, man, look, it was a good weekend. By the way, before we do anything else, shout out to the Texas volleyball team. Damn. You want to talk about a team that impressed the hell out of me? I've watched the Texas volleyball team a lot this season, and I thought they were going to lose to Stanford on Saturday night. I watched them play Tennessee 2 nights earlier, and it was like, okay, they scraped past Tennessee. They were match point in the 4th set against Tennessee. They scratched, they clawed, they won, and I thought, okay, well, you made it to the Elite 8. That's a good run. Here comes Stanford in Stanford's building. And my God, Maddie Skinner. Wow. You want to talk about a woman that stole the weekend? We should spend the next 3 hours talking about the greatness of Maddie Skinner because she was awesome this weekend. And it's crazy to me because I went to high school at the same time as her dad, Brian Skinner, the former NBA player. I know people that went to Temple High School with Brian Skinner, including the ex-wife of one of my best friends in the entire world. I can remember watching him play in high school against McCallum High School. One of my good buddies played for McCallum High School, a bunch of my friends back in the day, but one of my good friends that might be watching the show, shout out Justin if you're watching, knowing that they played against Brian Skinner. And all these years later to see his daughter be doing the things that she's doing, A, it makes me feel old. But B, it's like, I don't know, it's such a small world when all these years later, the children of people that you kind of grew up with and around are doing the things that she was doing. But again, shout out to the Texas volleyball team. I stayed up. I watched that game. I've watched them a lot this season, and the defending national champions will not go out without a fight. And Stanford learned that the hard way.
Mark certainly agrees with you on the chat, throwing in that Skinner is a badass. Thursday night, they play Wisconsin. Is that correct? Thursday, the second game, I believe?
I believe that's right. Honestly, I hadn't even looked ahead at the schedule for the weekend. I know it's in Tampa.
Yeah, it's a Thursday, Saturday. Thursday are the 2 semis. Saturday's the championship match if they get there.
And they're a little bit like Texas right now in that I don't know that a month ago we would have been thinking that Texas would be in the Final Four, certainly the way that they've got to the Final Four. But now that they're there, they got as good a chance as any. Just like the football team, win 2 games and you have your hands around more immortality for the rest of your life as a champion for all time.
Before we get into Portal Combat, let's grab a couple super chats that have already come in. Our man Oscar from the campus, $9.99 afternoon, y'all. I woke up, finished finals, crushed biochem, and my school is in the Final Four in volleyball and foosball. Always great to be a Longhorn, especially right now. Shout out to you, Oscar. That has to be a good feeling, especially crushing biochem, because that's got to be the extra good part. We also had a $4.99 come in from Going for the Corner, and they add, good day, gents. We know this team. We know how this team takes criticism, but what about everyone now telling them how great they are? Awards, national talking heads. Sark needs to keep them hungry. That is probably true. But there is I think there's a little ammo here and there, whether maybe if coaches of the year matter as ammo, Ketch, there was the Mike Gundy version. And then over the weekend, Kalen DeBoer got a coach of the year award. So maybe that pisses Sark and the team off.
Well, then you had Kelvin Banks making second team all Big 12 with the Associated Press. Jatavian Sanders didn't make either first or second team. Jahdae Barron didn't make first or second team. So, I'm reminded of like the banquet. The thing is, they don't do the banquet circuit anymore. So it's not like Tandre Sweat is flying all over the country, eating steak dinners every night. Remember when Ricky won the Heisman? And if I'm not mistaken, Ricky would tell you there's like 10 pounds that comes with all of those events. I hear you. He's going for the corner. Sark and this team have had their heads screwed on right all season long. I don't know if now is the moment when it all goes to hell in a handbasket because they're reading their press clippings. But look, you're right. I think Sark, once the team and everybody's completely done with finals and they resume practice this week, and they'll get it back. They will not have lost sight of the fact that, and this is where I think Washington as the opponent, Chad, really helps. Washington kicked their ass last year.
Yeah.
And this has been kind of a revenge tour all season long, with the exception of the Oklahoma game. There's been a lot of revenge that they've been able to take out on teams all season long. Alabama, Tech, TCU, like one game at a time, they've just been taking care of teams. Oklahoma State recently. So Washington is another team that, we talked about it last week. You think Xavier Worthy doesn't want a piece of Washington after playing in that game last year with a broken hand, having to drop passes, and then out of that game having to hear from Texas fans for 9 months that he wasn't good, that that all he's known for is dropping passes. And, I think that we'll look around and see a bunch of Longhorn players motivated. I'll be shocked if we get to New Year's Day and they play like a team that's head is in the clouds. So I'm quietly confident that whatever happens, they could lose to Washington, but I don't think it'll be because they took the game lightly or didn't respect Washington, or they think the job is already done.
If you want to throw in a super chat, we appreciate it, and we certainly appreciate Specs for sponsoring the chat. Before we get to Portal Combat, let's get you 15 seconds of Specs. And remember, they are your place. If you want to get stocked up for parties, get-togethers, game watching, whatever it is, you got 21 days to get ready for the CFP. Here we go.
No matter what you're needing, Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
21 days away, Texas and Washington, Bama and Michigan, Final Four, only 3 weeks away in college football. And as Ketch mentioned, Final Four coming for volleyball this week. All right, we're already up over 330 folks on that Specs chat. Ketch, are we ready? Are we ready for combat? Are you do you got your hands up, ready to fight?
Give me some devil music.
Round 1. Fight! Get over here! Finish him!
Portal combat. All right.
A little bit of Portal combat this weekend with the Aggies. Congratulations.
Yes. A&M definitely needed a little positivity on their side of things, and it's more substance. Ketch. The Aggies are just building meat and potatoes. They're not a lot flashy. They're not a lot of dessert. There's not a lot of fancy apps. They're just building. They're building from the middle, just substance stuff. Hey, broccoli's good for you. Thanks. Will Lee is his name. I do love a big corner, Ketch. 6'3", one of the best corners in the Big 12 last year, from Kansas State, is going to transfer to A&M. So the Aggies actually get a little Portal combat on the good side.
It lets you have your little 5 seconds of feeling good. You'll take it.
That's about all they deserve at this point. So what's the latest for Texas in terms of these Portal guys we've been talking about?
Well, I think there's a lot to discuss on the portal. The least of which, one of the things I've been told over the weekend was that, the portal, everybody's so crazy about the portal and every name that comes into the portal and every name that gets associated with the portal in the Longhorns. And, it sounds like it's a tough thing to manage behind the scenes for the coaching staff, because if there's a name who gets mentioned with the portal, there are players at every position that are asking their coaches, is everything okay? What's going on? I hear this guy from the portal is being associated with the team, and they've got to juggle. Okay, well, if you go out and you get a guy and you get some NIL cash, how does that impact guys who are literally playing for a national championship right now? They might want some of that NIL cash. So it's not an easy thing to manage behind the scenes, but this is why Steve Sarkisian is Big 12 Coach of the Year by the AP. It's why he gets paid the big bucks, and why I'm guessing before next season is played, he's even paid more big bucks. But all that's being juggled and managed, and I think this is going to be a pretty monster week with the portal, because you will see guys come into town that will take visits. And one of the guys that's already been into town, and a guy that is probably being talked about the most, UTSA edge rusher Trey Moore, was in Austin on Saturday. I don't know if he spent both days. You get 48 hours for an official visit. I don't know why he wouldn't have taken the full 48 hours, but he made Texas his first visit. I hear things are going really well. My expectation is that Trey Moore will join the Longhorns at some point. There's a possibility he might visit Ohio State. I've heard that he's got Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss. There is a number of teams pursuing Trey Moore in the portal. But the people that I talk to behind the scenes think that Texas is in the catbird seat with Trey Moore. And it wouldn't shock me if before we get to Friday, Trey Moore becomes a Longhorn. Now, look, we've done everything we can at Orange Bloods. We're going to have Jason Suchol join us at 1:20. I have a niece who we've done everything that we can to get a hold of Trey Moore, including, for the first time in my life, maybe the only time this ever happens, my wife's sister's daughter, so yes, niece through marriage for me, is a UTSA student.
Damn.
She is the girlfriend of a UTSA athlete. She is a very pretty, 21-year-old young woman. And I said, hey, can you try to get Trey Moore's phone number for me? Because I know she knows football players. I know she hangs out with other hot girls who would be able to get the phone number. And for the last week, we've not been able to get a hold of Trey Moore. So
look at you.
I exhaust every method possible.
Football over family. We're just going to die.
I'm trying to use a little bit of family.
Just going to use the family.
Trey Moore's phone number for us Thus far, she's not been able to do so, although I question how hard she's worked for it, because I feel like she's a hot young woman. How hard is it for a hot young woman to get a man's phone number?
Boy, that is that is just like now you've gone from trying to utilize the family member to like a strange, just sort of, I don't know if that's misogynistic or sexist or where.
No, look, the thing, I know where there's a will, there's a way. And the thing is, like I said, her boyfriend is an athlete at UTSA. We've not yet been able to get a hold of Trey Moore's phone number. So what I'm telling you is I'm giving you some Trey Moore insight, but it's not coming from Trey Moore. Whatever I tell you about Trey Moore, it didn't come out of his mouth via phone conversation or text messaging to us. But we hear really good things behind the scenes. The thing that I've heard from multiple people, he's kind of a local guy in that he went to Smithson Valley. And I've heard that from people who know him that the opportunity to play at Texas would be kind of a dream come true. So my expectation is that he will probably be one of the portal guys that the Longhorns are able to close. I think one of the things that we've got to do is almost go position by position, Chad, because I think there's a different story at every position with regards to what the Longhorns are looking for. So real quickly, let's just go through this, okay? And then we can dive into the weeds with specific names. I know there will be some questions about Andrew Makuba and another of other guys, some receivers coming into town. But real quick, let's – because I thought we might see a portal class closer to 10 than 5. I honestly thought that the number might be 7 or 8. But over the weekend, I'm getting the sense that it might be closer to 5 or 6, but that they might not extend as far out as maybe they initially thought they might want to. No at quarterback, no at running back, at receiver. Chad, if they lose Worthy, Whittington, and Mitchell, which is expected at this point, they'll be left with 6 scholarship wide receivers coming into next season as things currently stand. And 3 of those are guys coming back off of this year's team. 3 would be true freshmen. Collectively, they have 8 career catches. So, yes, they're going to want to get a couple of guys in the portal at the wide receiver position. And we will, throughout the show today, I think, talk about those players, who they are, how they're going to, I think, go about trying to figure out selection-wise and who they get. Tight end, I don't think there's a tight end in play currently, but the word on the street that I reported in my 10 Thoughts on the Weekend overnight, and if you've read it over at orangebloods.com this morning, you'll know there's now a sense that Jatavian Sanders is leaning towards going pro versus coming back. I think they could be in the market if they could find one that they really like. They're not going to do anything on the offensive line. I think they'd like to get a couple of defensive linemen. So, and one could be Trey Moore. I think they'd like to get a linebacker. And then I think they'd probably like to get a defensive back if they can. Andrew Makuba is a guy that if they can get in, I think they would love to have him as a part of this portal class. But the word on the street, and by word on the street, talking to a few people, both on the Texas side and the Andrew Makuba side of things, is that it's a little complicated with Makuba because, and you and I have never had this conversation before, Chad, because we just only started doing our shows again in August after a 10-year hiatus. But in the last couple of years, one of the big portal talking points is that it can be difficult for Texas to get guys or women to transfer in for any sport if they're older college players. So if they're like a junior or a senior and they're not a grad transfer, it can be really difficult to transfer them in because the university as a whole, for any transfer, and this doesn't just include athletes, this is the school policy. They typically, and I do think there are occasional exceptions, but I think maybe only occasional. You're only allowed to transfer in 60 credits. So if you're going to get a degree for the University of Texas, an undergrad degree, the last 60 hours are going to come from Texas. You don't get to, if Andrew Makuba had 118 hours of credits at Clemson, he doesn't get to bring 118 over, take a couple of summer school classes, and get a University of Texas diploma. That's just not how they do it. So one of the things that, and every school is different. Every school with regards to transferring credits and taking transfers is a little different. But at Texas, it can be especially tricky because of the general school policy. And Makuba's a guy that, because he's into his third season and would be a senior next year, think of it like this. If he had 115 credits, but could only take 60, and the word I have is I think he's got like 90-ish, a little bit more than 90. It makes sense, right? If you're a football player and you're more than 3 years in, that's kind of where you would be. If he were to transfer in and was only allowed to take his 60 credits with him, then I'm not sure he would be eligible when he showed up, because in order to be eligible, you have to be on a path towards graduation for the school year. You know, if you're a junior, you have to have a certain amount of credits to be eligible as a junior. I don't know what that number is, but think about, you probably need to have 24 after your freshman year, 48 after your sophomore year, 72 or whatever. I don't know that he would have enough to even be eligible in the spring if he were to transfer. So I'm not telling everybody that the Andrew Makuba recruitment is done for. I don't believe that at all. In fact, there's a very good chance he's expected to be in Austin for an official visit this weekend. But I think coming into the weekend, I was saying you can put it in pen. That guy's going to be a Longhorn. And it just sounds like it's trickier than he's transferring. He's from Austin. He wants to go to Texas. Texas football wants him. Hey, it's all good, everybody. It sounds like it's a little more complicated than that. And I think that that's one of the things that you have to remember. For Texas, as a rule of thumb in every single sport, grad transfers, boom, no problem. Younger people who don't have to worry about losing a bunch of hours through transferring, double thumbs up. Guy spends a year at UCLA, wants to transfer over to Texas. They can make that happen. Where it gets tricky is in any sport where a guy who's not yet a graduate is an upperclassman at some other school. And again, man, woman, regardless of sport, this is the general rule. It can be tricky in transferring over credits and the number of credits. And are they a junior or a senior? And how many credits are they left with? And are they eligible, right? If they give up a bunch of credits, are they still on path to graduate in their time frame? It can be tricky. So when we look at guys in the portal in general, forever moving forward, keep that in the back of your mind. The older they are and the more football they've played without picking up their degree, the more difficult it is for them then to transfer in.
Got some good chats rolling in. Cotton, let's clarify here. Sorry, Clemson, we don't accept 4 hours of woodworking, 10 hours of Dabo worship. No, that class is not called Dabo worship. That class is called Where Do Family Members Sleep 101. That's the one that Makuba would have taken. But thank you for that, Cotton. We appreciate it. So, Ketch, when you're talking about these, let's take Makuba. Let's say, I'll just pick two other big schools. Let's say he was thinking of Texas, Ohio State, and Georgia, just to spread them out a little bit. Are you saying that in general, like, is Texas just more strict on that than maybe other schools? Like Ohio State would take 75 of his credits or 80 of his credits, and Georgia might take all 90? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Every school is different. So
Okay.
I don't know what Ohio State's policy is. And I don't know what Georgia's policy is. I only know what Texas's policy is. Okay. And in this instance, because what I won't say is, okay, if those are the three schools he's looking at, it could be the same with all three schools. I don't know. I know at Texas, this is the rule. These are the rules. And it's not a new thing. I just haven't thought about it a whole lot because it's not every year where this has been an issue. But there have been occasions in the past couple of years since really the evolution of the portal where this has been a hurdle that has been problematic for the Longhorns. Usually it's like once a year. If we look at everybody else, I don't know that the same problem will exist. In this case, it'd be a lot easier if Makuba were a sophomore who'd only played 2 years at Clemson trying to transfer in versus on paper, it sounds better, right? It's like, we're going to get this 3-year starter from Clemson. Mm-hmm. But the fact that third year at Clemson and those extra hours of accumulation make it tricky. And so, I'm not saying it's a deal breaker because I have not been told that at all. I'm just being told it's not quite as simple as maybe as soon as he entered the portal, we all thought it might be because he's a former Austin kid whose high school coach is at Texas right now in an administrative role. And, oh, by the way, Texas is playing for a national championship. So wouldn't it be cool to come back and play for the hometown school when they're really, really good? And, oh, by the way, Texas could probably use you they could use him in the secondary in 21 days. That's another thing we'll talk about on the football side of things at some point, what Texas is going to be doing in the secondary with Derek Williams suspended for the first half. They could use him now, but there's a little bit and I haven't been told that the issues with Makuba are, anything that transfers over to any of the other guys that they're looking at. It's a person by person situation, and we'll see if they're able to work through this on the scholastic side of things. My expectations is that Makuba will be one of the guys in this class, one of the 5 or 6 guys that they look to take. But there are some things that they've got to work out before that can happen.
We're talking Portal Combat stuff. We want to get into Tandre Sweat as well during the show today. There's a lot to get to. Jason Suchol is coming up at 1:20. Let's sneak this one in, Ketch, because it's right along the recruiting / portal discussion. James, 199. Does Bama commit Williams alter the portal recruitment? Fill everybody in on this one. I'm just learning about it. This is a guy who's reclassified recently.
Yeah, Ryan Williams is a class of 2025 guy. He's a 5-star wide receiver prospect. He's teammates with KJ Lacey, the quarterback, that's a 2025 borderline 5-star guy for the Longhorns. They're teammates. Okay. Ryan Williams committed to Alabama, is reclassified for 2024 so that he can play in the 2024 season. Does that alter the portal recruit? James, I'm going to let you rephrase the question because I really don't understand the question because Ryan Williams is going to Alabama. So does it alter the portal recruitment?
Could James mean, does that alter the way Texas would look at the portal when it comes to wide receivers now that they know this guy's going to Bama?
Well, why would it? I mean, that kid was always going to Alabama.
Okay. I guess that maybe in James's mind, there was a thought at some point, maybe Texas could have gotten him.
I mean, Texas is like everybody else.
Right.
I mean,
they would love it, right? They would love for it too.
I think there had been some hope that because you've got Lacey committed, that over the next, if he doesn't reclassify and he's a 2025 prospect, I think there's always been a hope that, KJ Lacey will make a couple of trips down to Austin over the course of the next 12 months. Maybe he could bring Ryan Williams with him, and then you can chip away at the lust that Williams has for Alabama. I mean, but Ryan Williams has been pretty open. He is Alabama through and through. He's reclassifying. He's going to sign with Alabama. And no, I don't think that impacts anything that Texas is doing at the wide receiver position. I think what you're going to see from Texas It wouldn't surprise me at all if they go in for another high school wide receiver because they need bodies. Because of the 6 guys, if we can all agree that Worthy, Mitchell, and Whittington are all gonna be gone after this season, and what this really look, Whittington's a senior. If we can agree that Worthy and Mitchell are going to declare pro, which is absolutely expected, then Texas will have 6 wide receivers on campus on the scholarship board going into next season. 2 of those guys are from the high school level and coming off of injuries. You know, you've got Parker Livingston, who's coming off of a Lisfranc injury. Those scare the hell out of me, partly because I can remember when Terrence Newman had the Lisfranc injury when he was a Cowboy, Chad, and it felt like that injury bothered Terrence Newman for about 8 seasons. It felt like every year he was with the Cowboys, he was nursing this foot injury. So because of Terrence Newman's tenure with the Cowboys, when I hear Lisfranc, I'm like, no, anything but that. It's like a high ankle sprain, but worse. Mm-hmm. So he's coming off of an injury. You've got Freddie DeBose, who, by the way, will be playing for a state championship this weekend. You've got him, who's coming off of an ACL injury from a year and a half ago. And although he's having a good season, he hasn't quite been the same guy that Texas offered a scholarship to. You know, I think it's fair to ask if they'd waited to see how he played as a senior, he might not have received an offer. And I hate to say that out loud because it sounds negative, but like we're having a realistic conversation about the wide receiver position. Of their 6, 2 of the guys coming from the high school ranks are guys coming off of major injuries and still trying to find their way through. So I think you're going to see them probably go into the high school ranks to try to sign another guy. One name that was mentioned to me this weekend, and there's a good chance before it's all said and done, he visits. Speaking of guys we were trying to get on the phone yesterday, there's a kid named Aaron Butler who's from, is it Calabasas? Is that how you say it?
Yes,
California?
I believe so. Yep.
He is a national one. He's ranked 115 nationally in the Rivals 250. He's a mid 4-star guy. He was committed to Dion in Colorado.
Okay.
Decommitted on Saturday. And it seems like his top 3 schools will be Texas, Washington, and Arizona moving forward. He's been described. I talked to Adam Gorney via Twitter DMs this weekend, and Gorney described him as Xavier Worthy-like. Now, I think the game can be a little similar. I think the frames, he's 6 foot 170. So he's got a little of that Xavier Worthy skinny frame thing going on, but he's not as nearly as fast or explosive as Worthy, but a really good player, very similar type games and body types. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he visits this weekend and if the Longhorns become a real important team for him. But I think they're going to go after probably a couple of guys in the portal. And I've been told that there's a lot of they are sorting through the wide receiver position in the portal. I think they're extending offers. We talked about Juice Wells from South Carolina potentially visiting this weekend. It looks like the kid from Purdue, who we've also talked about, is going to be coming in for a visit on next week, this upcoming weekend as well. Deion Burks. I've told you that Houston's Matthew Golden might be their number 1 target in the portal. Matthew Golden, since he's entered the portal, it's been eerily quiet. There's been nothing that's come out on him. But I would expect that to change in the coming days. And then I think there are a handful of others that they're also probably trying to figure out, are they going to be in? If they are, how do we handle the other guys? So I think the wide receiver position is A, major need. B, it will majorly be addressed. But C, I think it's very fluid. And I think the decision-making is still taking place on the Texas side of things about what strategy should be employed or deployed with regards to managing. They need numbers, they need quality, and they still don't quite know what the full set of options look like.
Real quick comment from James following up. I was right with what he meant about Ryan Williams. He said he saw that he was supposed to be setting up official visits. So I guess the thought among some Texas fans is that, is there any chance Ryan Williams would set up some visits at places not named Alabama?
I haven't heard that. James, if he's going to take a bunch of official visits, that would somewhat surprise me. It's certainly, his right to do so. He's got unlimited visits he can take. The NCAA doesn't even limit them to 5 anymore. But that kid's been all Alabama.
And if he's reclassified, also, do we know if he's going to be signing a week from Wednesday? Or is he going to be one of those that waits till February?
I'll have to check on that. I mean, I'll be completely honest. I've treated the Ryan Williams story as a bit of a shrug because it's been discussed that he could reclassify for a while. I've never heard, he'll reclassify, and then even though he's an Alabama commitment, take some official visits because he'll want to. Like, that's never quite been on the table. If it is, and Texas could get him in for an official visit. I would say this. I think if he sets up official visits to other schools, Texas would have a very good chance of getting him on campus for a visit. Because I think if he wasn't all Alabama, which he's seemed like from the beginning, then I think Texas would get an official visit. That kid's been, I would be stunned if that kid who's been so strongly, he's been to a ton of Alabama games this year. He's been trying to get KJ Lacey to flip from Texas to Alabama. It would be very surprising if he reclassified to 2024 and then reprogrammed his love, his brain, everything that he's been kind of leaning towards, and suddenly takes a left turn at Albuquerque. If Texas could get that kid in for a visit, they'll do anything they can. I mean, there are a lot of people that feel like he's the best wide receiver in the country, regardless of classification. So from a talent standpoint, he's unreal. I've just, for the last 6 months, been under the working impression that he's all Alabama.
All right, a lot of good chats coming in. You see how those super chats work. If you put a little bit in the tip jar, we will get right to them. Thank you to 450 folks who've already jumped in to that Specs chat. Portal stuff, Longhorns are 3 weeks away from that big playoff game. We got a lot of stuff to get to today. Buy or sells coming up. Another brunette battle in a hotter than. Can't wait to see what Ketch does with it. That's coming up. But also, I got to tell you, Ketch, and I got to show you the beverage that I had over the weekend, because that bourbon milkshake from Hayes City Store ain't no joke. Oh my God. If you're like me and the dude and you like drinks that are a little milky and a little creamy, are you into your White Russians? Are you a Colorado Bulldog guy like me? This bad boy is your new best friend. Holy hell. You could drink it with that straw, but I just took the straw out and sipped it, and it was wonderful. Oh, the bourbon milkshake. So good. And by the way, for the record, Ketch, the blackened pork chop, a little bit better than the grilled pork chop. And the grilled pork chop's amazing. I think I'd go blackened over grilled. Y'all get out there and try it.
How is that even possible?
I don't know. I have no clue. It was just this wonderful dusting of blackened seasoning. And oh my God, it was great. Another great experience out at Hayes City Store. They're at FM 150 out there in Driftwood. Get on out there. There's your QR code if you want to scan it. You've heard us talk chicken fried steak. My wife did the grilled pork chop. We finally got our friend Sherry out there. She went with some of those wings. Ketch tried some of their wings when he was out there. Sherry went with the wasabi wings. They were excellent. She also had some of those big, thick cut onion rings. If you're into big, thick onion rings, they are delightful. It's just a good time all the way around. Hayes City Store. Check them out. You see it there. Fresh ingredients, quality taste. Oh, yeah, it is all there. Always worth the trip. Now Sherry gets what I'm talking about. Now the rest of you need to get what I'm talking about. Head on out to Hayes City Store in Driftwood. It's a good time. Bourbon milkshake, big thumbs up. I would recommend you do what I did, though. Have your DD planned out ahead of time.
Well, then you can get crazy with the shake.
Yeah, exactly. Right, because we're talking about the hill country and driving out to Hays City Store and driving back to wherever you're going to get to. There's going to be some twists and turns. So bring your DD. Make sure you do it all responsibly, because trust me, you're not going to want to go to Hays City Store once.
What did Travis say? It's like the gateway to the hill country.
Yeah, that's a good way to. I think you would have phrased that location, because you could go from there and then go hit your Wimberley and do some cool hill country.
There's some hills. That's all we're saying.
Absolutely. And like I always say, don't be in a rush. Don't rush going out to Hays City Store. Don't have like something, coming up right after it. Like, just chill. We were sitting at the table and I look over at my wife and I realize, oh my God, it's been over 2 hours since we've been sitting here. Like, it's just a comfortable time. So
if we go back.
Yes.
Do you think we can play a Jedi mind trick on Travis and make him think I've never been there before, so we can get the same level of treatment on the menu that we did the first time?
I think he'll give you that same level knowing you've been there before, because now he'll just play the what have you not tried yet game.
Okay.
And you'll be fine. You'll be good. Okay.
I haven't tried that chicken fried pork chop. I know that.
Oh, man. Yeah, no, that's my next step is the chicken fried pork chop, because I haven't done that either.
By the way, I was thinking about Sherry this weekend.
Yes.
Did you tell Sherry I said hello?
Of course. I always tell Sherry you said hello. She said to tell you hello as well.
Okay, good. And I was thinking about Sherry this weekend, and one of the all-time great Jedi mind tricks that a woman can play on a man.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I'm married, right? So it's not like I'm in the market or looking around or anything like that. But the moment she told me, why would I tell you anything about myself? You won't remember it tomorrow. I've now realized if every woman told me that when I met them, I think I'd be obsessed with all of them. Hey, you tell her I said hello. Like, what a way to like trick a guy into wanting to know. Like, if she doesn't know that, and I bet she does, I bet she does that to every guy. Why would I tell anything about you? And then it makes the guy motivated to want to remember.
Yeah.
I'll show her.
Oh, yeah. She's a crafty one.
She's a crafty son of a gun.
She is a crafty one. She's also my texting partner for Cowboys games, because she's a Cowboys fan as well. And last night was a lot of fun, Ketch. A lot of fun. Great start, great middle, great end. And by the end of it, I just texted back, well, that was fun. And she just texted back, indeed. And then we both just went to bed. It was fantastic. So good.
Do we have any other? I see we've got some other super chats.
We got one other super chat right now at $5. Let's grab this one real quick. Does Texas lead for any of the top 2025 recruits? Oh, look at Mike getting ahead of everything in the state, like Jonah Williams or Michael Fasusi.
Mike, do you want me to tell you what you want to hear for your $5? Or do you want me to tell you like the early morbid truth?
If he's a real Texas fan, I'm going to say Mike wants the truth, Ketch.
Okay, well, the answer is probably no. Let's go through these real quick. I think one of the reasons why he's asking this, maybe not, but Rivals put out their initial 5 stars. Well, it's not initial because I think some of these guys have been 5 stars, but it's their 2025 5 stars. And if I'm not mistaken, they gave out 13 5 stars in the update that came out today. The good news is that 4 of the 13 are from the state of Texas. 4 of the top 11 prospects in the state, or in the country, are from the state of Texas. So it's going to be a good year in state next year. The problem, at least as of now, and let's go through them. By the way, I can't wait to just this is a fun little topic. The number 4 player in the country is DeCorian Moore from Duncanville, the wide receiver. Chad, we've talked about him. He's a certified badass.
I saw him. I saw him live whoop up on my team. He's good.
Problem is he's committed to LSU.
Yeah, he is.
So I think we can safely say he's not leaning to Texas right now or leading because he's committed elsewhere and has been all football season long. The Cowboys, boy, Freudian slip there. The Longhorns will do everything. I bet the Longhorns get that kid in for on campus a couple of times, but it'll take some work to get him away from LSU. The number 5 guy in the country is Devin Sanchez, the cornerback from North Shore, who's been to Ohio State like 17 times, or like 3 or 4. But regardless, he's been to Ohio State a lot, and there's a sense that Ohio State is the leader for Devin Sanchez. That's the number 4 and 5 prospects in the country, both of them in state, neither of them leaning towards Texas. Now, before we move on to the next 2, what's really cool about Devin Sanchez and Decorian Moore, the number 4 and 5 players in the country for 2025, they will be going against each other this weekend in the Class 6A state championship when Duncanville and North Shore play again. So This weekend, when you're watching the football at Jerry World, there won't be a better one-on-one matchup in the country this weekend than Devin Sanchez against Decorian Moore. The Longhorns just don't lead with either of those guys. The number 8 player in the country and the number 3 guy in the state as it currently stands, although he's so damn good, I don't know. He might be the best player in the state. I don't know. Is Jonah Williams, a safety from Galveston Ball, who is a dope baseball player too. If we had Dustin McComas on right now, I think I saw Dustin earlier today say he was either the number 10 or 11 baseball prospect in the class in the state of Texas. He's an incredible athlete, an incredible player, and A&M is probably the team that leads for him. Part of that is he wants to stay close to home. A&M is close to home, but they've also done a really good job of recruiting him and his family, and the Longhorns have some work to do. And then the number 4 kid in the state of Texas that got a 5-star ranking today is Michael Fasusi, the offensive lineman out of Louisville. That's a Texas-Oklahoma battle. Texas is in better shape with Fasusi than they probably are the other 3 schools, but Oklahoma may be the betting favorite for Fasusi. If I'm not mistaken, to give you an example of that, I think Oklahoma and Texas had their final home games on the same date, same weekend. I can't remember, but Fasusi more times than not, when given a choice, has gone to Norman versus coming to Austin. So the Longhorns have a really good shot with Fasusi. But again, I think the betting favorite at this point would be Oklahoma. Those are the 4 guys. Those are the top 4 guys in the state of Texas right now based on the Rivals rankings. All 4 have 5 stars, and the Longhorns right now don't lead for any of them. But we know Sarkisian's a great recruiter. We know the staff is really good at recruiting, and we know they're coming off of a monster year that might become more monstrous if they can actually win the national championship. So it's never too late. They're going to have a chance to change some eyes and open some eyes. But you asked me a question for $5 about where things stand today. That's where things stand today.
Mike, we appreciate that super chat, and obviously lots of questions rolling in as we get closer to signing day. Remember, a week from this Wednesday is signing day. This Wednesday is Kobe Black announcing where he is going to commit, and this Wednesday is also full SEC schedule day where we're going to find out everybody's games, when, where for the SEC in 2024. So,
by the way, I see that Money B said that the new A&M staff hasn't recruited Jonah. That's true, but the kid loves A&M. And sometimes that's that, you know? I mean, can't make some kid not love something that he wants to love. So I think the Longhorns will do everything the Longhorns will get Jonah Williams on campus. They'll have a shot, but they don't lead for him as it currently stands. And if we were to put money on where his heart resides, I would put it on A&M. I don't like saying it. Believe me, I want to cover Jonah Williams. That kid is amazing.
Yeah.
I think he may be the best prospect in the state. He's that good. I just don't think Texas leads for him right now.
Ketch, you know what I say about love. When somebody loves something, you got to let them love it and just leave it alone. That's my general principle. You just leave it alone and let them
It's like that George Strait song. You can't make a heart love somebody.
That's right. Exactly. All right. So lots and lots of recruiting stuff and portal stuff going on. We are just across that 1 o'clock spot. Let me double check and see. I don't see any super chats right now. We got Jason Suchol coming up at 1:20 to talk more recruiting. Kobe Black coming on Wednesday to figure out what he's going to do. Have we heard a time on Kobe Black yet, for the record?
I've not heard. You can ask Jason in 20 minutes.
Perfect. We'll see if he has heard a time. We've got Crap Bag at 2, some stats in the NFL. We'll talk about that play in the Chiefs-Bills game, and we'll play Blinko at 2:20. 10 conversations in 10 minutes. We'll see what it sounds like today. We got
I'm sorry, Chad.
No, you're good. Go ahead. You want to go buy or sell, or do you want to hit something else?
Well, I just wanted to real quickly say, before we have Suchol on, talked to a source yesterday as it relates to Xavier, Phil Same, and Kobe Black. I think the Longhorns are going to have a really, really nice Christmas with regards to late closes. I've had my future cast in for Black for 10 months. No need to change it now. In fact, we'll talk about this later in the show. Kobe Black's had one of the most fascinating recruitments that I can remember in a long, long time, because he's going to be like one of the last guys to announce. And usually when a guy is the last guy to announce, there's a lot of drama in his recruitment. But there's been no drama. And Kobe Black's, he's going to announce as one of the last guys in his class. And yet there's no drama. It's eerily quiet, which at this point bodes very well for Texas. And I'm hearing that Xavier Filsame is, I've heard the words done deal with regards to Texas, but yep. I'm also hearing from the Florida side of things that there's almost like a concession of sorts that's taking place, that they know that this is about to happen. So in the next week or so, the Longhorns, we'll talk to Suchol about it in 20 minutes. By the way, Blake, can you send Suchol a link if he doesn't already have one? It's so weird. Suchol should just bookmark the studio, and like he should be able to get in anytime he wants to, but I don't know if he knows that. But yeah, I think Texas will get their 2 guys.
And Ketch, go ahead on the time frame here, since you're mentioning. So in terms of Phil Sami, the announcement, signing day or the flip confirmed before? Callan's wanting to know if you had to guess.
Well, at this point, he's publicly still saying that he's committed to Florida. So if he were to say, I'm going to announce my decision on signing day.
So it's got to be a flip. By definition, it has to be a flip.
Yeah, and I think we'll probably see the flip confirmed before.
Gotcha. Okay. Fair enough.
It wouldn't shock me if next Monday or Tuesday, he's a big part of our Monday or Tuesday shows.
Yeah. Also, just real quick before we hit buy or sell, shout out to RD, who got in early in the show, enjoying from Atlanta today. Shout out to you. Glad you are enjoying the show. Shout out to over 420 folks in the Specs chat right now. All right, Ketch, you ready to buy or sell? You going first or second today?
Well, Blake could probably give you the answer because I didn't send him any questions. So
fair enough.
You go first today.
All right, let's do it. Buy or sell number 1. The NFL should seed by record and only guarantee each division winner a playoff spot, not a home game.
Sell, because that would mean changing. My fantasy league uses the NFL rules as tiebreakers in our fantasy league.
Uh-huh.
And if they did that, then it would mean that everything that I've done for the last 25 years in my fantasy league has been wrong, and we're just going to blow it up and change everything. So, no. I'm going to say keep it as it is. I'm a traditionalist.
Fair enough.
Even if it means that your Bucks host a playoff game with an 8-9 record. It is what it is.
Yep. Bucks or Falcons or Saints. One of those 3 are going to host a playoff game, apparently. All right. Buy or sell number 2, Ketch. You've seen it now. You believe Texas volleyball wins it all.
Sell.
Okay.
they haven't – the best three teams in women's volleyball all season long have been Nebraska, Wisconsin, and Stanford. Texas beat Stanford, so they, without question, can win it all. And Wisconsin and Nebraska, by the way, I love that I know this much about women's college volleyball because I kind of feel like I know what I'm talking about, even though I really don't. But I've been keeping up with it all season long. Nebraska and Wisconsin have both beaten each other. So it's not like one of those teams is unbeatable. And I think in a situation like this going into the Final Four, none of these teams have a veil of invincibility about them, which is really important because Nebraska had been undefeated all season long. And at the end of the year, Wisconsin got them late after Nebraska got them earlier. So they've all taken losses. They can all be beaten. But in order for Texas to win the national championship, they're going to have to beat Stanford, Wisconsin, and probably Nebraska all in a row, back to back to back. Pretty little maids all in a row, like Tommy Boy once said. And there's a part of me I doubted them against Stanford, and they beat Stanford in 4 games, and 2 of the games sets weren't even close. But it still feels like an almost impossible thing to pull off. So I'm going to say sell while acknowledging I probably should have learned my lesson on doubting this Texas volleyball team.
Sounds like that Arizona basketball team back in the day, trying to beat 3 1 seeds. We'll see if they can do it. That first semifinal.
Yeah, that's exactly what it would be.
Yeah, they're cranking up those semis on Thursday. We'll get you the details as we go through the week. Buy or sell number 3, Ketch. Your top 4 right now in the NFL are San Francisco, Dallas, Philly, and Baltimore.
Sell.
All right.
I think Miami's my number 4.
Okay.
There's something about Baltimore that I don't know. I just don't. I've watched a lot of Baltimore this year because I had at one point on my team, my fantasy team, both Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. So I was watching Baltimore games every week. I still feel like I watch a lot of Ravens football. They win a lot of games closely in the fourth quarter, overtime, whereas Miami beat the hell out of some teams. We might see it tonight. When Miami gets it cooking, they are really good. So of all, I would say it like this. The Cowboys are getting ready to play Miami in a week or two. I forget, is it Buffalo that's next or is it Miami that's next?
Buffalo.
So they're going to go Buffalo and then Miami and then Detroit and then Washington, right?
Correct.
I would rather play Baltimore than Miami. Miami's scary. Miami at their best can be scary.
Miami hosts Tennessee tonight. Green Bay is at the Giants. Those games will run simultaneously. The only one of the 4 that's a winning team, the Miami Dolphins. ESPN and ABC tonight. Buy or sell number 4, Ketch. The Texas 24 class is ranked number 4 by Rivals today. After signing day, it will be top 3.
Buy. Because I think when it's all said and done, Rivals will eventually, by the end of the recruiting season, by the time we get to January, they'll have 32 5-stars. And there's a good chance that Kobe Black and Xavier Filsaime will both be 5-stars. And I think those points added to the Texas class will get them into the top 3 for sure.
All right, and finally, Ketch, let's go. Buy or sell number 5. This says today, but it was yesterday, actually. Was Emmanuel Shrieky's birthday. That's Sloan from Entourage. Get her in your mind. Prime on Prime. She's hotter than Bridget Moynihan.
Ooh.
I see that I did put together a decent game. Hot brunette battle in a hotter than.
Prime on Prime.
Prime on Prime, whatever you consider that to be. Mark says buy.
The thing is, I think the easy answer is to buy. Because we all drooled over Sloan in real time.
True. But only one of these two women was actually a model, and it's not her.
Yeah, I'm going to sell.
Okay.
I'm going to say Sloan is spectacular.
Yeah.
But I think she might be slightly overrated in this game because, look, everybody's buy. But, guys, do some internet searching.
Hell, go watch 5 minutes of Coyote Ugly.
Or do that.
It's yeah. By the end of it, I couldn't figure out which one I was being more like. At first, I thought it was going to be an easy Sloan thing, and then when I thought of Bridget, I went, "Ooh, that's not so easy." In fact, I think it may swing the other way. So it's a hell of a battle, though.
I think that you're exactly right. I think that your instincts are to go Sloan.
Yeah.
God, I don't know. You know what? You really have me torn.
Yeah, it's a tough one. They're both beautiful. Love the beautiful smiles, the way they carry themselves. They're just gorgeous people. So have that battle with your friends all day because there's no wrong answer on that.
All right,
one.
you know what? I'm going by. I've changed my mind.
He's going back to the entourage.
I'm going
there you
back
go.
to Sloan.
She is wonderful. She's wonderful. All right. I think out of my entourage love, I might end up with Sloan as well. All right, Ketch, buy or sell. What do you have for me today, sir?
Buy or sell number one. Cowboys steamrolled the Eagles last night on Sunday Night Football. And you still think eventually they'll lose in the divisional round of the playoffs?
Sell. I'm not thinking of it that way. Could they lose in the divisional round? Sure. But I'm not taking the defeatist attitude. I really like this team. I think there have been steps taken. I love this version of Dak Prescott. I don't think his best is behind him, as you and some others have talked about. I really like what I'm seeing. And this is one of the best teams in the NFL. And sometimes when you root for one of these brands, you get ripped on for saying it out loud. But that's one of the best teams in football I watched play last night. Could they lose? Sure. Are there teams that are maybe better than them start to finish? Yeah, maybe. But I had the same field catch that I had last year. If they lose, I think they lose for football reasons, not crazy cowboy circus reasons.
For the record, I will acknowledge I think I'm wrong about Dak. I think he's playing the best football of his career right now.
I do too.
So let me throw myself on the sword. I think I'm wrong about that.
Okay.
Buy or sell number two. Jaden Daniels won the Heisman. And even though he didn't play a single game all season against a team that matters, that anybody's ever going to remember for the rest of their lives, you think the Heisman voters got it right?
I'll buy. I think they got it right. He put together the issue was it was record book stuff. That's what it ultimately ended up being. Again, he's in the category for me with the little. There's an like RG3, Johnny, Daniels. You kind of live in a different neighborhood. You don't have to fight for national titles. You don't have to be on the best team. You just need to do something so freaky in the record book that they can't ignore it. That's what he ended up doing. I think they got it right.
Buy or sell number three. The Associated Press named Tandre Sweat first-team All-American at defensive tackle, Byron Murphy second-team All-American at defensive tackle, and Xavier Worthy third-team All-American as an all-purpose player. And you think the voters of the Associated Press got it right?
I will sell overall because I think Worthy probably needed a little more love than that. I like what they did with the big men, but I'll sell Worthy because he probably needed a little bit more love as a receiver. I think he probably needed a little more love.
Buy or sell number four. Give it up to Tandre Sweat. We'll talk about him maybe this hour and maybe next, as a matter of fact, after we talk with Jason Suchol in about 5 minutes. He won the Outland Trophy.
Whew.
And you're surprised that he won it over Joe Alt, the offensive lineman from Notre Dame.
I'm going to buy, not because that wouldn't have been my pick. My pick would have been Sweat. I just always expect an offensive player to win the Outland. And when it's, two offensive guys versus a defensive guy, I always think, an offensive guy is about to win it. So I was looking for one of those two names. I was thrilled when I heard Sweat's name. So good for him, man. Tandre's put together. That tells you what kind of freaky D tackle you are. If you can put if you can get above offensive guys in the Outland voters' minds, because they love to pick offensive linemen. So for Sweat to pull that off, that's a nice little upset kind of within an award. Good for him.
And finally, buy or sell number 5. This one's a little bit odd. I posted a link in my 10 thoughts from the weekend to my guy Ren, who I've sent you his music before.
Yes.
Probably my favorite new artist that I've come across in 2023.
Yes.
And somebody replied in my 10 thoughts from the weekend column that I only liked Ren because he looks like Miley Cyrus. Earlier this weekend, that same person said that another website covers Texas football and recruiting better than we do over at orangebloods.com. Buy or sell. Everything this guy ever says on any topic is complete horseshit based on the fact that he thinks that Ren looks like Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, I mean, we got to buy because everything else now is suspect. If you wanted to tell me he kind of looks like Machine Gun Kelly, I'll go with you there. There's a couple other people that he kind of looks like, but he doesn't look like Miley Cyrus. That's silly. So I'm buying. I'm not believing anything else this person's throwing out.
You've lost your credibility on all opinions when you pick.
We got you and I are both music snobs enough to know you're not always going to agree on certain things, but we got to have a baseline. We got to have a base level. We got to be playing a man's game. That's not playing a man's game if you think he looks like Miley Cyrus.
Well, it's weird because I have a lot of people when they like, I love me some Miley. She's not my favorite of all time, but I do love Miley. Mm-hmm. People will tell me that she looks like Justin Bieber. And it always makes me think that they're secretly gay when they say that. It's like, I think you might be projecting a little bit if you see Miley Cyrus and think of a guy. But
well, I think there's two things at play there. A, I think it speaks to how pretty Justin Bieber is, but B, I think that comparison might actually insult Bieber. I think Bieber might be that much better looking than Miley.
You might actually now.
You know what I mean?
Miley's sexier because she's actually a woman.
Oh, sure. Right. But in terms of just flat out, right, in terms of flat out pretty, Bieber might have her. I mean, he really might.
Be right. You might be right. Justin Bieber might actually be prettier. But it always weirds me out when I'll post a photo on Orange Bloods of Miley like in a GQ fashion spread where she's just looking amazing. And it's like, looks like Justin Bieber to me. And it's like, is it possible that there's nothing wrong with this?
Oh my God.
Hey, if I was gay, I'd probably want to have sex with Justin Bieber too. But is it possible that if you're seeing a picture of a beautiful young woman and all you see is a man, that maybe you like men?
Hey, I just think that speaks to sometimes you're just attracted to attractive and super interesting, and that's what those two people are. Maybe attractive and not boring.
Maybe it's very David Bowie-ish, right? Where it's like that androgynous thing. And so maybe these are big Bowie fans who just like all of their men and women to look a certain kind of androgynous.
Look, Ketch, if you go party with one of those two, you know two things. You're going to have a great time. Three. You might die. And 3, ain't no way you're coming home before like 1 a.m.
And 4, there's probably going to be like supermodels everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you are going to – it'll be amongst your greatest party nights of all time, and it doesn't matter who you've partied with before. Those two are going to go after it.
It's one of the reasons why I like hanging out with pretty people. They hang out with other pretty people.
Yes, they do. Yes.
Okay, that's what we play buy or sell.
There
By the
it
way,
is.
Jason,
Perfect.
I don't know how long Suchamel's been sitting there listening to this conversation, but Suchamel knows I love Miley Cyrus. He's been on the board for a long time.
You know there's something inside of Jason Suchamel's brain. When he hears you and me talking that kind of mess, his brain just tells him, okay, just wait. They're almost done. They're going to bring you in. Worst lead-in ever again, and then we'll get to it. That's what he's thinking right now.
Well, we can always get his opinion.
We could. He's probably also thinking about who should be the next OC of the Steelers. It's those two things now in his mind. Yeah.
It's probably not Miley. Although I bet he would tell you that Miley Cyrus could have done a better job as the OC than Matt Canada.
Probably. My wife would definitely agree with that. My wife would want Miley tomorrow. All right, let's see if he would agree. He is Jason Suchol of orangebloods.com at @OB_Jason S. Jason, Miley Cyrus over Matt Canada from game one. Would you do that with the time machine?
I would take anybody over Matt Canada. And I think any Steeler fan would say the same. You guys missed a perfect segue. He said, I like hanging out with beautiful people. Speaking of beautiful people, let's bring in Jason Suchol. Come on, Ketch.
Yes.
Up a little bit. And someone in the chat said, Jason is a huge Bieber fan. Listen, I've got 3 daughters, right? Teenage 12-year-old daughters who grew up in Bieber all over the radio. We have a rule. When Dad's driving, if Bieber comes on the radio, that is not allowed in my vehicle, dude. So
no Bieber.
No Bieber in my world. No.
That's fantastic. So when you hear the Bieber and you want to direct them towards something else, what's something that Dad has gotten them into when Bieber comes on? What do you put on?
All my girls have different tastes. One of them likes, one likes George Strait with me. One likes alternative rock. My youngest one likes Taylor Swift, like most 12-year-olds, but anything but Bieber. No Bieber is allowed when I'm driving.
All right, fair enough. The no Bieber rule. I like it. You got to have principles. If you don't have a code, what do you have?
Yeah, now it's just a running joke, so now I got to stick with it.
God forbid he ever produces a banger that you like.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, there's a couple of songs I can admit are a little catchy, but I'm never going to let my girls know that. So
exactly. All right, Ketch, where do we start on recruiting with Mr. Suchol?
Wow. Look, I've been in Slack having conversations with Suchol. We're trying to round up phone numbers of guys. I told you we Jason, I told him I tried to go through the niece to work out a phone number. We've got a bunch of stuff in our heads. Best thing to do is probably ask Jason, where do you want to start? Because there's 5 stars, there are guys that are just now coming onto the radar. There's portal. You pick and we'll go there.
Yeah, in 20-some years, we've come up with some creative ways to try to get phone numbers. Using a niece has never been one of them. So good for you for thinking outside the box. But
it didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work. Yeah. So I've jokingly made the mistake of saying like, hey, I've got like a now 18 and a 16-year-old daughter, and I think they're cute girls. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'll have them call these dudes who won't answer for me. I'll give them a list of questions and be like, hey, call Kobe Black, see if you can get him on the phone, girls. Maybe FaceTime. I don't know, whatever you got to do. I'll just sit in the background and take notes. Where do we start? We might as well start with Kobe Black, who of course announces on Wednesday. I don't know that I have a whole lot new to say there, guys. It's Texas and Oklahoma State and Ohio State and LSU and Texas A&M. But again, it's Texas, it's Oklahoma State. I've been writing my 3-2-1 column this afternoon, and I hope to have that posted probably this evening. I'm going to try to get it posted early. And Kobe Black is my lead segment of my column. I've heard nothing that makes me feel any differently than my future. I put my future cast in for Texas back in June. He was on his official visit. Ketch, you had yours back in like February or something crazy, but I put mine in June when he was on his Texas official visit. I don't mind saying it, man. We heard rumors then that he had actually committed and given I don't know if you ever used the words like I'm committing to Texas, but we heard words then that he had given indication that Texas was going to be the choice. So I remember talking to Ketch and I think Blake too. And we're like, hey, let's get to work on a graphic and instant analysis and get a commitment story written and ready for whenever it pops. And here we are, almost 6 full months later, we're finally about to have a resolution. I think it's Texas, and then everybody else is way back in the rearview mirror. I keep hedging just a littlest of bits because I think I said Oklahoma State weirdly has a bit of confidence in this. I think it's a misguided confidence. I fully expect Texas to be the pick Thursday afternoon. I think that's a good place to start. I think Texas adds to their recruiting class in 2 days, about 51 hours from right now.
Jason, we'll stick with guys that are either 5 stars or borderline 5 stars. Xavier Phil saying, I starting to hear people say things like locks, he's in the bag. if I had to pick, I definitely pick Texas based on the fact that I'm hearing that. And even Florida people seem to be at a concessionary place in his recruitment. Had somebody tell me earlier today that Florida's not even getting phone calls back right now. I don't know if that's true or not, but it definitely feels like when we get to signing day on the 20th that the Longhorns will be adding 2 guys that could be for rivals 5 stars when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and I'm wondering I was talking to Cole Patterson the other day, and it's Sami, something like that is how you say his last name. He's been a tough one for me to kind of personally get into, okay, in terms of direct conversations and people close to him. Just sometimes you have good sources, sometimes it doesn't always work. Xavier has been a tough one, so I've had to kind of poke around and use different sourcing on him. I'm in agreement with you. I mentioned my 3-2-1. I have a segment on Kobe Black written. I have a segment on Xavier Sami written. Okay, and it echoes the same thing you're saying. Hey, that one went back and forth. Rivals does not allow, the software doesn't allow for us to put flip predictions in our future casts. Okay, once he's committed to Florida, I wish they would. I wish we could predict flips. We can't. If we could, I would be predicting a flip to Texas. That one it went back and forth for a little bit, but ever since Florida fired Corey Raymond, that thing has been trending to Texas. He set up his Texas official visit. Now, Florida did hire, I think it's going to get announced today maybe, their defensive backs coach or new DB coach, excuse me, is from the Chargers, the LA Chargers. The new coach, a couple Florida staff members, including Billy Napier, are supposed to do an in-home visit this week. The only way I think this thing gets tricky for Texas Ketch is if Florida goes in and somehow this week convinces him not to take his Texas official visit this weekend. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to take the visit. I think it's trending strongly to Texas, but if Florida can go out and just go into his home and just knock the doors off with their new DB coach and Billy Napier, maybe he says, okay, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and stick with Florida and shut things down. I'm not expecting that. I fully expect him to take his Texas official visit. I don't know when we're going to get a formal announcement out of him. It might be Sunday night after that visit. I would think, like you mentioned, I would assume it would probably be next Wednesday. I'm expecting probably a signing day announcement at this point. I strongly favor Texas, but Florida is trying to do an in-home this weekend to maybe shift that thing back their direction a little bit. I think it's a little too late.
Hey, chat, real quick before you ask a question, I may ask the question that you're going to ask. Kobe Black, do we have a time on when that announcement's supposed to be made?
I looked right before I came on here, and you're going to get a chuckle. It's at 4:20 on Wednesday.
Yeah, sponsored by Rogue.
Yeah, Kobe Black announcement sponsored by Rogue. Yes, exactly. So
there you go, right in the middle of football with friends. 4:20.
Yeah. I don't know why
that, because he'll be able to turn his entire show into a reaction special, and it just makes doing football with friends on Wednesday really easy.
Yeah, I don't know why that time, but that's the time, and it'll be on. So.
Jason, just real quick, back to Sami. He's a name that ever since I've heard it, it feels like there's a certain legend about him. And I know some fans are getting really excited about the prospect. It wouldn't be obviously, like an A&M to Texas flip. It wouldn't be an Oklahoma to Texas flip. But how big would it be? I mean, what level? I mean, I hear Ketch say 5-star and what we're talking, just like how big a deal would that be? Obviously, Texas is headed towards the SEC. To get a guy of this quality from another SEC school, obviously it's not bad news, but just how good a flip would that be?
I mean, he's right now, Rivals technically has him as a 4-star, but he's ranked number 32 nationally. If he holds that position, he will be a 5-star as they hand out more of those 5-star designations. So, I mean, clearly one of the best players in the country, regardless of position. I mean, this is a kid who could pick up the phone and commit anywhere in the country. He committed super early to Florida. He's got ties to Florida, and his mom lives down there. His dad's in McKinney, of course. And huge addition just from a talent perspective, and he brings some position versatility to him. He's a safety, but I think he can do a lot of different things in the backfield. But, I mean, Texas has a need at safety. I mean, they've got some decent young talent there, but they're losing a lot of upperclassmen out that are going to be leaving the program. So, I mean, he's a guy, Chad, that could come in like we saw from Derek Williams this year, kind of a similar profile player, honestly. I mean, those guys are kind of built the same. They're both extremely athletic, both 5-star type player. So, he would be a guy that I would think will come in, and Texas is working the transfer portal at safety as well. But I would expect he's talented enough. I think he comes in and plays as a true freshman and is a contributor, maybe along the same lines we saw with Derek Williams this year for Texas. So, it'd be a big-time flip. Like you said, it's not from A&M. It's not from Oklahoma. It's not quite as sexy as maybe stealing one from one of your two rivals, but he's coming from a power SEC program, if you will, if you want to call Florida that still. But tremendous player, and he would definitely fill a good need for Texas.
Jason, do you have there's been some new names pop up. Maybe that's where we'll segue into now. I know when we were talking earlier, you mentioned that you had can't remember if you just gotten a phone number or just had a conversation with a guy. Do we have a sense for what number we think the Longhorns will land on signing day? I mean, they're at 20 right now. We think it'll get up to 22. There's certainly, I think, room for it to go beyond that. It's about how many guys they want to take and how many portal guys they take and managing the numbers.
Yeah, and if we count the two DBs as in, let's just go ahead and do that. That puts them at 22, as you said. They did offer last week Hunter Andrews kid out of Magnolia, who's committed to Utah. Plays running back in high school and plays it really well. He's 6'2", 215. He's a big athletic running back, but plays it really well at a high level in high school. Texas offered him as a tight end, H-back, or linebacker. They said, hey, you pick. You come in, you pick which one you want to do. I talked to his coach today, and I'll have that in the 3-2-1 as well this evening. Just raved about him as a player. He thinks he could really be an asset as an offensive weapon, as an H-back type player. He doesn't have he said he doesn't have the experience as a route runner and, as a pass catcher and a blocker, but he said he's a capable blocker even from his running back position. He's athletic enough where he can do some things. He'll learn those things, he said. But, he's committed to Utah. He's been committed to Utah since June. And, he's kind of struggling with these. And I get it. He has a sense of loyalty, to that Utah staff. Texas A&M has tried to make a run. They've got him on campus, I know, at least once, maybe twice in the fall. But the vibe there is he was going to stick with Utah. Then Texas comes in. Hunter told me last week, he goes, yeah, I'm looking at making a Texas official visit this coming weekend. So the 15th, I asked his coach, and his coach said, well, he goes, I don't think it's set in stone yet, but he goes, it's certainly, I think that's something he's strongly considering. So I need to follow up later in the week to see if he does take that official visit. If he does visit Texas, again, man, you just kind of got to read the tea leaves. It just makes sense, right? I get it. He's been committed to Utah a long time. He's got a great opportunity to stay close to home, go to a school like Texas, going into the SEC. I think Texas has a really good chance to flip him if he makes that visit, which I think is going to happen. His coach said he asked him flat out, okay, when Texas offered, he said, hey, man, if you're just solid with Utah, let me know. We'll just shut all this down. And Hunter Andrews did not want to shut it down. He goes, no, I still want to keep talking to, Texas. So he's leaving the door open. Now we'll see if Texas can kick it in this weekend. There's Aaron Butler is a wide receiver out of California. I'm still trying to track down some information on this one. I'm going to make a couple West Coast calls this afternoon. There was an ESPN report that had Texas. He decommitted from Colorado, and there's a ESPN report that had Texas as one of the 3 schools he's considering. Texas hasn't offered him yet, so it's getting pretty late in the process. If that thing's going to heat up, I mean, that thing would have to really, get an offer this week, come in and visit this weekend. So, I need to make some calls on the West Coast to see if there's a lot of validity there. But I mean, Texas was mentioned as a player there. The other position, Ketch, I mean, they're still looking for defensive linemen. You've got Terrence Hibbler, the kid that's committed to Mississippi State, Alex Foster, who's committed to Baylor. Bo Davis went and saw both of those guys last week. Foster told me he was thinking about a Texas visit for the 15th. Okay. He said, I'm thinking about it right now. I said, the 15th? He said, yep, it'd be the 15th. And since then, he's gone silent. I can't get a response out of him. So I don't know if he's coming in. I don't think he is. I think Texas is just kind of a little bit hot and cold there. I don't think they're really pushing. But if they really decide to push in the next 48 hours or so, I think they can get Alex Foster on campus. I think they can flip him from Baylor. It's just a matter of what do they want to do at that defensive tackle spot.
Jason, quick question on the uneasiness right now around my Aggies. I never thought I'd be so excited about a transfer from K-State, but here we are. But in terms of what they have lost recently, receivers, defensive backs, and guys in the portal and things like that, for you looking at it from the other side of the house divided, is there one guy, like, is it Bussey? Is that maybe the most important guy in their class that they need to stay put? Or is there another name you'd throw out right now in terms of somebody the Aggies absolutely have to have signed coming up?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, they've lost a bit more. And I don't pay attention to the inner daily workings, but I remember when it was going on, I said, I think they're going to keep most of that class together. They've had more losses than I expected, but sometimes that's a risk when you're recruiting a lot of out-of-state players too. I mean, you lose your coach, those guys, good chance are going to flip. They've still got some really talented players in that class, but you're right. I think if I'm picking one, it's Terry Bussey, just because A, he's such an exciting player. B, I mean, he's a tremendous player. This is a 5-star type talent, but he's also a guy that generates buzz and excitement. I mean, they've got some good, Dominic McKinley, an interior defensive line. They've got other good players, but Terry Bussey is the one kind of name that really moves the needle from a talking point, an exciting point, and you put on his film clips and, people get excited about him, and I'm just a tremendous, tremendous player. So yeah, I think Bussey would be the one. And, LSU tried to make a run there, probably still are trying to make a run. Bussey did say recently, he told someone else I know, hey, I'm still talking to Texas when they call, but I don't think there's any traction there. I don't think anything's happening with Texas. So if they can keep him in the fold, I mean, that would be a big addition for A&M. And talking about keeping people in the fold, one thing we do need to mention, Ketch, is Aaron Hampton, Bubba Hampton, the Texas commitment. Kind of a similar profile as Terry Bussey. They both can do a little bit of everything on the football field, right? Aaron Hampton, he told me a couple weeks ago, hey, Alabama's not going away. They're still hitting him up like once a week. Nick Saban did an in-home visit with Aaron Hampton last week, and Aaron Hampton's team lost in the playoffs last week, so he's got that's over with. Now he can kind of refocus on recruiting if he wants to for the next 10 days. I've been trying to get in touch with Bubba Hampton, and he's always really good about talking to me or calling me back if I call him. I haven't been able to get a hold of him the last few days. So I've texted him and said, hey, dude, I just want to, eliminate, if I need to, I'll crush any concern. I'll put it out there that you're locked into Texas. If you're still considering things, then we'll figure that out. But I have not been able to get a response from him. Maybe his phone battery is dead. I don't know what it is, but I anytime I can't get a response from if there are rumors floating around and a kid has a chance to crush those rumors and I can't get a response, that means to me, I think it's a situation worth watching. I was told that Alabama will keep a spot for Bubba Hampton until, if he wants to flip on signing day, they will have a spot for him.
It's kind of surprising to me, actually. I mean,
Alabama loves him, dude. They have loved him for the longest time. I mean, just whatever they see something in him that they really like. I've been told that for months that he's one of the top prospects on their board.
Well, what's interesting there is that, he'd been committed to Texas, and then once Alabama came into the picture, it felt like that was the dream school for him.
He showed up at, I'm trying to remember who's in that. It was another recruit's commitment announcement. I can't remember exactly who it was. He showed up as a Texas commitment wearing Alabama gear to that announcement. So everybody's like, okay, he's flipping Alabama, but he ends up, of course, recommitting to Texas. Remember, he's been committed to Baylor. He's been committed to Texas. He decommits. Then he's kind of telling people, yeah, I'm going to go to Bama. And then he recommits to Texas. Now things are kind of, it's a tug of war again. So, Aaron Hampton's kind of he's an interesting recruit. He's a fun recruit. He's just kind of from week to week, his head's in a different space.
Jason, and this will be my last question and we can let you go. The 2025 Rivals 5-star rankings came out today, and we had a super chat question earlier asking whether or not Texas led for any of the 5-stars. And I kind of went through them, right? I was like, well, DeCorian Moore's committed to LSU, and, Devin Sanchez looks like he's going to Ohio State if I had to put money on it. And, you look at Jonah Williams, and I know there's a new A&M staff there, but he seems to have been very gung-ho about the Aggies as like a number one school potentially for him. And then Michael Fasusi kind of looks like an OU Texas battle. And while Texas, I think, is really competitive there, if Oklahoma would probably be the betting favorite if I had to put odds on it. So I'll just kind of very generically ask you your thoughts on the early shape of the 2025 class. And it's been a little bit of a strange year because if Texas didn't close with Kobe Black and Xavier Filsaime, we would be potentially looking at this recruiting class and talking about it being top 5, but only one real mega Longhorn commitment in terms of 5 stars, national, super blue chip, that kind of thing. I think you and I both think that coming out of a season where they make the playoffs, I think some of this in-state stuff is going to correct itself a little bit, and that they recruit too well and they got too much going for them to not be doing really well in state. How do you think this thing plays out? Like, does it start with the junior days in February or March where we start to see some of this turn a little bit? I mean, how do you look at 2025, the big dogs, and what we should expect?
I'm with you. And it's funny, like I started a thread on the 5-star countdown, and there was it 14 of them they released today, I think. And someone's like, oh, Texas is going to get all of them. I was like, I said, I don't even think I would consider Texas the leader for any of them right now. I mean, I think they can flip DeCorian Moore. I think Fasusi, he was all Oklahoma early on, okay, back in the spring. I think that one's maybe 55-45 Oklahoma right now, but he keeps showing up to UT, and he loves it every time I go there, and he loves Kyle Flood. And somebody in that thread said, like, I thought when Texas started winning, Texas was going to get all these guys. And I'm like, they might, but I mean, it's still very fresh. Let's give this some time. I mean, these guys have a full year, over a year before they actually sign. So it is a little weird to look at the Texas commitment list and only see one commitment from that 2025 class. You do have tight end Emory Winston, who's going to announce his decision next week. Texas, Ohio State, and Central Florida, kind of a weird grouping there. I think Texas has a really good chance there. Ryan Williams, the 5-star receiver, reclassified today to 2024. He made that announcement, right? And he's saying he might give Texas one of those 5 official visits between now and February. I'm not getting too worked up about that. But, I think Texas will gain some traction on these guys. I mean, let's be honest, this winning thing for Texas, certainly to be in the college football playoff, even winning the conference, we're only talking a couple weeks old, guys. I mean, it's got to take some time to sink in with these guys. And, the coaching staff will have all spring, even in the next summer, to really kind of build on those relationships, make waves, reel some of those guys in. So I fully expect it'll be another very good Texas class, but it's got off to a weird start. One commitment in that 2025 group. He's a really good player. I mean, he's a borderline 5-star quarterback. So that's a great start, but you'd expect bigger numbers. But one thing about this staff, I mean, Ketch, we see it a lot. Like, they don't push for a lot of commitments early. They'll take them. Listen, if a really good player wants to commit early, they're going to take it. But they don't go out and say, no, we need you to go ahead and commit. They just kind of let these things run their course, and they kind of just stick with it. And it tends to work out for them in the long run. So, I would not hit the panic button. I think there will be dividends paid for the successful season they've had this year, but we may not see those for 3, 4, 5, 6 months or even later. And I want to circle back. Someone asked about Solomon Williams in the chat, and I'm sorry, I know I'm kind of jumping around. Solomon Williams, the linebacker kind of edge guy out of Tampa. He is, Sark and Pete Kwiatkowski are doing an in-home today. Then Bama's going in Tuesday. A&M and Oregon are going in later this week. I'll be honest, man. I mean, nobody I've talked to has a good read on what Solomon Williams is going to do. There was a time there it looked like A&M was a team to beat. Then that kind of dipped. A&M had the coaching change. I don't know where things stand with A&M right now. Texas looked pretty good there for a while. Then it was Alabama, then Oregon. So it's been all over the place. And I'll tell you that I've had people kind of directly connected to this one asking me, like, hey, what are you hearing? I'm like, not a lot. Like, what are you hearing? So nobody seems to know what he's going to do. But Texas is going in home this week, including Sark. So that's certainly one to watch, over the next 10 days.
That was the last one I had. I was going to have him talk a little Solomon because I saw that in the chat as well. A lot of people want to know.
Jason, I lied. I got one more. Ryan Williams, the 2024 now 2024 wide receiver from Alabama. I don't want to say I wasn't listening to you just then.
You weren't listening because I just mentioned him.
Yeah, I wasn't listening then. What did you say?
This is my wife on the other end. Who's that? My wife?
Look, I was trying to set up a Ryan Williams question.
No,
so
he reclassified today to the 2024 class, and he is committed to Alabama, of course, has been for a while. And we've heard forever, like, oh, he's going to visit Texas, and he's going to come with Lacey, the Texas quarterback commitment, and his high school teammate. They're going to visit together. It hasn't happened. He did say, apparently, and I watched some of his reclassification thing on Instagram. I didn't see this, but apparently after that, he said, he has until February. So he's going to take some official visits. And he said Texas might be one of those places that gets an official visit. But again, I think that's a bit of a pipe dream. I think that one's pretty much locked in for Alabama at this point.
I was just going to say, it's interesting that he's even talking about official visits because
but you know what? If you're going to
he was in Tuscaloosa, like on the Alabama campus this weekend.
Yes, exactly. I don't think there's anything to get too excited. But then again, hey, the kid wants to enjoy the process, right? He's going to reclassify. He's got 2 months to enjoy the process, where most of the kids in his class took official visits back in June. They took him in the fall. He didn't do that. So he's reclassifying. In my opinion, and I haven't talked to Ryan Williams, my opinion, he's reclassifying. He says, hey, I've got till February to sign. I'm going to live it up for the next 2 months and take a couple of visits and enjoy the process, and then probably sign with Alabama.
You don't hear this from your wife, I'm guessing, very often, but sorry, honey, I wasn't listening. You are a god, and I bow down to your feet and love you forevermore.
I will be playing this on my phone. That's what
you should say to your husband whenever you're not listening to him.
Yeah, I will be playing that on my phone to her later today, okay? So, I'm going to make that my ringtone for when she calls. Yeah.
Jason, appreciate it, my man. Have a good rest of the day.
All right, guys. We'll see you.
So Chad, sorry about that. That's what I do to you sometimes. It was for the betterment of the show, though. I was literally trying to find something online to ask him about the Ryan Williams thing, and
you know what? You handled it like a man who's been married a while. You admit it and you move on. It's like, all right, fine. Well, what did you say, or what can we do? Like, it happens. I mean,
people say all the time, Chad, Ketch never admits he's wrong. No, when you're as wrong as often as I am, you get used to being wrong. You fall on the sword. You admit that. Here's the thing. If I will fight tooth and nail if I don't think I'm wrong. But when I know I'm wrong, I fess up right away.
Yeah. You don't lose arguments, but you'll admit you're wrong. It might be 3 days after the argument, but you'll admit it at some point. It's just in the moment, you're not going to go down. Not then.
By the way, I got to tell you about this dream I had last night, because it kind of involves you, but it doesn't.
Weird.
You want to psychoanalysis my dream real quick in 2 minutes?
Sure.
So I'm doing a radio show that you're not involved in.
Okay.
I think I would have been at the old radio station that we both lost jobs at.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But I'm at a bar that's very similar to the bar from Dusk Till Dawn.
Okay.
In fact, all of the women in the bar might have been vampires.
Fair enough.
So I'm doing the show by myself, and Anwar's back at the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And Chip Brown shows up in the vampire bar and jumps on and says hello to Anwar on the show.
And is Chip is Chip a vampire?
Chip was not a vampire that I'm aware of.
Okay.
All of the dudes could have been vampires in the bar too. I seemed in the dream more focused on the women, who all were like my types.
Okay.
And
by that you mean hot and maybe vampires.
No, they were all like smaller women, like Miley, Natalie Portman, Keira Knightley. None of them were voluptuous.
Right. Okay.
They were all like
Thin
our producer once said, a small piece of leather well put together.
There you go. Thin vampire on the prowl.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Anwar gets mad at me because I had Chip on, and I'm trying to leave, but then the vampire chicks want to start making out with me.
While you're doing the show.
I made out with 2, and then I rushed out of the bar, and I was on 360 trying to get back to the radio station when I woke up.
Wow. I think based on the overall just situation of your work life, and based on maybe the last year or so, maybe recent events or whatever, I think that dream is about the blood-sucking nature of the business.
You may be right.
There's my analysis.
The thing is, I don't know that the women were actually vampires. I just think the bar reminded me of From Dusk Till Dawn. So
Right.
in the dream, I just assumed that all of the women were vampires, but it didn't keep me from wanting to make out with them.
Can you tell me the name of the bar from Dusk Till Dawn?
Oh, God.
Because it is kind of naughty.
No, I can't remember.
Wasn't it the Titty Twister?
Might have been.
I believe
I've
so.
seen that movie like 10 times, but I don't remember the name of the bar.
I believe
The
that.
thing is, neither my 2 spouses, you and my actual wife, weren't in the dream. I don't know what that's about.
Interesting. Okay. I don't know what that is either. I thought you were going to tell me like either I was the DJ or I was the one dancing with the snake. One of the two.
You were.
Because I would do such a good snake dance. You have no idea.
If I ever have a dream where you are the woman with the snake,
That's bad.
I will never question anybody who compares Ren to Miley ever again, because I'll be having dreams with Chad with snakes. So thankfully that didn't happen, but I never remember my dreams. But this one, I literally woke up from right as I was about to wake up my kids, and it was like, what was happening in that dream? And maybe can I go back?
Is there any way I can maybe check that out again? I'm just checking out a couple of super chats here that we have coming in. We will grab those before
Chad needs a raise for being a therapist. Well, look, one of the good things about having a show is we converse for 3 hours. We can talk about anything. But yes,
that is it. Now don't bury the lead. They said I need a raise. Just focus on that part. Just focus there. All right. We will get to those super chats coming up real quick, Ketch. Let's go to, this will be a perfect, I'm sure they'll be thrilled at my perfect franchise that you just led there. Like, for instance, if somebody wants to be, I don't know, maybe they want to become a movie maker and make vampire movies. My perfect franchise might be able to help them out.
Or run the Titty Twister bar. Either way.
Yeah.
If your dream is running your own business, starting your own business, being your own boss and never working for the man ever again, but you don't know quite how to get started. And look, I'll be honest, like I have a couple of businesses. It's complicated at times, and you got to make sure you cross your T's and dot your I's. And look, if you don't know where to even begin, that's where Andy from myperfectfranchise.net comes into the equation. On top of just being a great dude, he specializes in helping people get off their feet and into action with regards to doing these very things that we're talking about. Tons of success stories. Go to the website, myperfectfranchise.net. He's got testimonials. Call that phone number. Reach out to Andy. He's not looking to make a quick buck off of you. This only works if it works. This only works if he can actually help you and you sense that he can help you. It's not too dissimilar from like Mojo Insurance, right? It's like, can he help you? And if he can, everything else starts from there. Give him a call, send him an email, make that initial contact, let him know kind of what you want to do, what the dream looks like. And my guess is it might just be a match made in heaven, because Andy can show you the pathway to making all those dreams come true. Start out 2024 with a bang by being your own man.
Got some good chats and super chats coming in. Let's clean these off real quick. Our man Oscar jumped in from an earlier discussion. $4.99. No one hates George Strait. You may not be into music, but you will not find one person who hates the king. I could probably go there. If you don't like George Strait, it's because you don't like country music. I've met those people.
You know what's weird? I tend to find where Oscar is kind of right. I tend to find that people that don't like country music, but then listen to George, dig George. They say that a lot of people who are not into country music will say the same thing about George that they say about Chris Stapleton. They'll be like, well, he's the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
Where I come across some strange people is that I sometimes find country music fans who will weirdly pit George against some of their favorites and then say, well, they don't. I never heard anybody say they hate George, but
Right.
I will find an occasional person who says they don't like George for whatever weird country music reason. It's sometimes a country music fan, mostly newer country music fans, that kind of weirdly judge George. It's never like people that you otherwise would think. Because I think non-country music fans, you put on George and they're like, well, I like George. But there are some country music fans that don't like George.
Yeah, kind of strange. Oscar, we appreciate that super chat. Ooh, I'm going to try this. Here's a button I haven't hit. What happens if I hit this button?
What are you doing?
Apparently nothing. All right, the button said replace, but it didn't actually do anything. All right.
Don't you be pushing buttons that you don't know what they do.
They gave me a choice, but hey, at least we're still on. Super chat, $2 from Tracy. Catches up in here, cheating on Nike. SMD Nike, like the shoe company?
I mean, I think he's saying because I got an Under Armour sweatshirt on. But
oh, I got you. Okay. Fair.
Wouldn't I really be cheating on Vans?
I guess.
Because I'm more of a Vans guy than I'm a Nike guy.
That is true. Thank you for
all back to our Vans relationship. What was her name? The lady that ran the Vans store back in the day?
Lori.
I loved her.
Oh, she was fantastic. Absolutely. Shout out to Lori.
You know what she's doing these days?
I don't know. I need to reach out to her. I think the last time I reached out, I didn't hear anything back. Maybe the number changed, but you did remind me. I had I've got 1 or 2 pairs of Vans in the closet I hadn't worn in a while, and thanks to you, I've been wearing them lately. They are comfortable damn shoes.
I mean, I'm wearing my Van. I'm wearing not my Van. I got like 10 pairs of Vans, but I'm wearing Vans right now.
They really are comfortable. There's no doubt. And then this just basic chat from Teta. Dream means we need to bring Kirk Bowles on the show. All right, maybe. I don't know if that's the interpretation of the dream, but yeah, maybe. If you want to send us.
JD, I can't control what happens in my dreams.
Yeah, so true. So true.
I mean, I'm married. I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just talking about the weirdness of my dreams. My wife's not, the dreams I remember, my wife's not always in them. In reality, she's always here. So trust me, it's all good.
So somebody in the chat says, leave it to the Aggie to push random buttons while doing a live show. It wasn't random. It was specific. I wanted to see what it would do. And then, oh, look, there's Kieran. We need to replace Thunderstruck with Here for a Good Time by George Strait. Kieran, I love you. That's a bad idea. That song does not that song just doesn't do what you're trying to do there. No. And it's not because I have a better idea, which I do, but it's not that. It's not. I don't know if there is a George Strait song that I would use there, but I don't think it's Here for a Good Time. I don't know.
What would be the George Strait song to play to get people hype?
Yeah, I guess it would. Look, I'm still bitter.
You play Fireman?
You could. To me, it's also about the Here for a Good Time works because you've got to have something that fits kind of the vibe of that moment. Not quite sure if Fireman does it. The speed of it does. Ace in the Hole does. But it's like, does the song fit? That's why, to me, House is Rockin' by SRV is the perfect choice. I'm still a little upset they didn't go with it.
They did not. CDC gave 0 shits about your nomination.
Yep, didn't care. And so once they didn't go with that, what are you going to do? You know, if you're going to be wrong, you can be wrong thousands of ways. There's only one way to be right, and they didn't pick it. So what are you going to do? All right, we got a lot of good chats rolling in. And, see, somebody chatted it in while I was saying it. Houses are Rocking's a better idea chat. Exactly, Phil. Exactly. It is. All right. I Hope You Dance needs to come back. I Hope You Dance.
It's a Leanne Womack song.
Oh,
I
right.
hope you dance. Which is, you know why they played that song, though? If I remember this correctly, and you asked, well, you don't have to ask Chance on the Outsiders, but Chance would know. I believe that was Cole Pittman's favorite song.
Ah, okay.
And so that when Cole passed away, they played that song in the stadium all the time for years. And, you know, if anybody was in a stadium for the first time, they'd be like, why the hell are they playing Leanne Womack 30 minutes before a football game? That's not exactly a get hype for some football, but
no,
I'm not mistaken. It was Cole Pittman's favorite song.
Right. Like that's a cool song. Just like, you know, Live Like You Were Dying by Tim McGraw is a cool song, but would I play it at a football game? Probably not. Like, it's probably not that perfect, you know, fit. But
I hope You Dance is a really beautiful song, though. And if we're being completely honest, maybe you just play that everywhere.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I'd never heard that connection story either. All right, we are just past 2:00. If you want to throw us a super chat, we will gladly take that. We talked Portal Combat earlier in the show. There's definitely some stuff to go over there. We gave congratulations to, there's multiple stuff to throw out. Congratulations. Longhorns getting All-American honors, Sweat, Worthy, and others. And then, of course, Tandre Sweat winning the Outland. We talked about that earlier in the show.
Hey, real quick, because I don't think, based on the fact that we're getting ready to go into the crap bag, and then we got Blinko coming up, just 2 minutes on Tandre Sweat. Because I don't want it to be contained by the clock of Blinko.
Sure.
I'm having a hard time comparing him to anybody in the history of Texas football right now. Tandre Sweat, a year ago, when he didn't walk on senior day and when it became clear that he was going to come back for another year, you know, the thought process was, well, that's good because he's a rock solid, good defensive lineman, and you're losing Keandre Coburn and Moro Ajomo, so it's good to have somebody coming back. But he was like an honorable mention all Big 12. He had two and a half tackles for loss last year. Coming into this season, Byron Murphy was first team all Big 12 preseason. Tandre Sweat was nowhere to be found. For Tandre Sweat to have gone from pretty good player, okay, he's good, very good, but not a guy that, I mean, if he'd been anywhere near what he was this season, he'd just gone pro a year ago. I don't know that I can completely think of a guy who's gone from really solid player to have on your squad, solid starter, to all-time great player in one season. Because what he's done this season from a one-year resume standpoint, you know, Derek Johnson put together, you know, the kind of, he is first team, almost, I think, unanimous All-American, Outland Trophy winner, Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year, Big 12 champion, playing in the playoffs. He's literally put together a resume that no defensive tackle in the modern era of Texas football has ever put together. Not Casey Hampton, not Sean Rogers, not even a guy like Rod Wright who won a national championship. His resume is completely unique. And when he won the Outland Trophy this year and became the first defensive tackle, first Texas player to do it since Brad Shearer in 1977. I was 1 year old. I don't know that there's enough appreciation yet. Maybe it'll take some distance and some time to step back away and truly reckon with what it is that Tandre Sweat has done this season. But a month ago, I did my top 10 defensive tackles from the 2000s era. And I went Casey Hampton, Sean Rogers, Malcolm Brown, Lamar Houston, and then Tandre Sweat. And if you'll remember, when I about 6 weeks ago said I would rank Tandre Sweat ahead of Roderick Wright, there were a lot of people in the chat that were like, Ketch, what are you talking about? Roderick Wright, no way. He was a first team. Now, today, it feels like the only guy that I would rank him behind is Casey Hampton, because Casey Hampton is all-time great and is so freaky. You can't go above Casey Hampton unless you lead the team in tackles for 2 consecutive seasons and have like 100 tackles for loss. But it's amazing, even in a month, Tandre Sweat has put him in a place where I think you have to rank him ahead of Shaun Rogers. I think you have to rank him ahead of everybody on that list. And we were not talking about Tandre Sweat in that fashion 4 months ago. And I can't think of anybody else in the history of Texas football that's had such an ascension in the way that he has from almost out of nowhere.
I mean, the quick ascension for me, I could compare to Deontay Foreman, but Foreman was doing it at a position where he's not going to get up that high onto the list. Maybe I'd ask it this way for you. If I said Mount Rushmore of D tackles at Texas, and whatever your order, and we went Hampton, Rogers, Sweat, Kenneth Sims, like, is he on the Mount Rushmore of D tackles at Texas?
I don't know. Look, it's tough.
Because those dudes had careers at Texas. He had 1 year that you'll never forget, and awards and all that stuff. But
you got to, even at that point, remember guys like McMichael and Scott Appleton, who
right.
isn't really from, I mean, that's 60 years ago, but Scott Appleton won a national championship and won the Outland Trophy as a defensive tackle.
Yep.
So it gets to be really hard to do a Mount. I think, though, here's what I would say. He and Casey are probably the only two guys, with all due respect to Shaun Rogers, in the last 30 years that get to be in the conversation. Because Sims has to be in the conversation. Appleton has to be in the conversation.
Yeah.
McMichael has to be in the conversation. It is a position where they've had a number of all-time great players. But even when you bring up Devontae Foreman, the thing about that is, he didn't want to, like, the conference championship and making the playoff.
Right. Yeah.
Suddenly, in the modern era, it's like, well, Lamar Houston has one of those things, but he doesn't have all of the things.
Mm-hmm.
And even Casey Hampton doesn't have a Big 12 championship. Well, no, he was on the 96 team, so he does have a Big 12 championship. He was a freshman on that season, tore his ACL in 97. One of the reasons why in 97, John Mackovic probably got fired. But didn't win an Outland Trophy. Like, it's the combination of things. He's got 5 legitimate, major accomplishments in one season that no defensive tackle I've ever covered has accomplished what Tandre Sweat has accomplished this season. None of them. And that is, it's just mind-blowing, because nobody was thinking before the season. Nobody bowed up and said, well, hey, you know who I think is going to be the best player in the country and should be at the Heisman ceremony on the defensive side of the ball? Tandre Sweat. I think you could make a legit case he should have been in New York. And he wasn't, because he's a defensive player, and that really never happens. But that he did it just out of nowhere is, we just don't have enough appreciation for it yet, because I'm dumbfounded by it. And yet none of it feels faulty. None of it feels like, sometimes a guy will win an honor or will get an accomplishment and you'll be like, oh, well, the wrong guy won the trophy. I can even do that with the Heisman a little bit. Like, well, maybe they should have given it to another guy. Everything that he's earned feels completely earned. And now at the end of the year, his resume is spectacular.
One of the things that stood out, I was thinking of him last night, Ketch, Bama fans, like Texas and Bama are obviously the two teams in the playoff that if I change one play, they're not in. Michigan and Washington, you'd have to do a lot more than that. And for Bama, it's easy to go to that play against Auburn and champion the quarterback and champion the receiver. But I always go back to there's multiple plays for Texas, but that play on Will Howard on either second or third down of that sequence, go back and watch the play. The guy Will Howard is targeting is wide open. He is running all by himself. It's a touchdown. It's no doubt, unless he just flat drops the ball, he's wide open. It was Tandre Sweat that messed that up. And that individual play, that J.J. Watt, Warren Sapp freakiness for a D tackle on that play, it just cannot be overstated. So there's a few of those moments this year, but what he's done has enabled this team to get there. And Ketch, he's also one of the reasons why when I heard the matchup, I knew, that's a one-score, high-scoring kind of shootout game. But I think Tandre Sweat is one of the ingredients that is making me pick Texas to win the game. A lot of people will pick it because of offense and because of Ewers and because of Sark and whatever. But 93 is part of why I'm picking Texas. Because let me tell you what, Jeff Ketchum, Washington ain't faced a 93 all season long. They got dudes out in the Pac-12. I get it. They haven't played a guy like that. They have not played a dancing bear like 93.
Ask homeboy from Iowa State.
Right. Exactly.
You think you've played guys.
Yeah. He's different. No, he is a different brand of vodka in the best way. And yeah, we could talk about him all day and it wouldn't be enough, man. He's a beast on this team. He and Murphy to be right there in the middle to try to affect this game and stop that Washington run game. It's huge. It's a big, big part of this game.
And last thing I'll say on the matter, we'll move on to the crap bag. I love that Byron Murphy got second team All-American because it would have been real easy for Tandre Sweat to take all of the attention. It's a hell of a thing that they had two guys on the AP All-America team, first and second team. That means of the four best defensive tackles in America, Texas had two of them. Those two guys don't get enough credit because without those two, Texas ain't playing Washington. And they're not winning the Big 12 championship. Like, so much of what the team accomplished this year is because of that tandem. And what I would say, probably probably about it. It's the best tandem since Casey Hampton and Shawn Rogers. And, they warrant being in that discussion. Whereas coming into the season, I would have said, stop. Mm-hmm. Don't you dare. Those guys are good. But Hampton and Rogers, and look, those dudes went into the NFL and were all pro. And some people think Hampton one day will be in the Hall of Fame. Like, he'll get to the senior committee and the senior committee will go, he was the rock in that Steelers run on defense. He could eventually get in. And Rogers had a run in the NFL with Pro Bowls. And I think he might have made an all-pro team or two. These guys have moved themselves into that conversation. And I didn't think anybody would ever be in that kind of rarefied air. I didn't think I'd ever see that again.
Yeah, no doubt. I agree. All right. We do have Blinko coming up at 2:20, 10 conversations in 10 minutes. There's a lot going on right now. In terms of the crap bag today, I saw a couple of stats out of the NFL. I thought it might be good for perspective for Cowboys fans. Cowboys looking great, obviously. They're at 10 wins. Eagles at 10 wins. Niners at 10 wins. Cowboys fans, check out these stats on a couple guys you're going to have to deal with possibly in the playoffs. Look at this Brock Purdy stat that they flashed up on SportsCenter. This one is breaking my brain, Ketch. 70% completions and a passing touchdown. Longest streaks in NFL history. More than Rodgers, more than Breeze, twice, way to go, Drew. More than Peyton Manning, more than Joe effing Montana. I don't know how to compute what this man is doing. It's remarkable that Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy are putting this on the field every week. That's stupid right there. 70% and a passing touchdown more times consecutively than that. Than Hall of Fame guys. What the hell, Ketch? It's unbelievable.
I don't know what to say. B, I don't know what to say. C, I'm still a doubter. And I might be just stupid, right? Like I'm confessing my doubt, but it's got to just, it's bathing in confirmation bias. Because I watched that guy at Iowa State and I thought, pretty good player. Maybe he can play in the NFL. I feel like with all of those other guys, you could put them on any team. And look, I think Aaron Rodgers honestly, I think some of those guys have played on multiple teams. I'm not convinced that if Brock Purdy played in New Orleans or played almost anywhere, pick an NFL city. If he's with the Texans, I'm not convinced that this would look the same. And yet, the numbers are the numbers, and the numbers say, shut the hell up, Ketch. You don't know what you're talking about, even if there's still disbelief in there. But that's freaky.
Right. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. And it's all credit to just everybody. It's the weapons they're putting out. I think it's right coach at the right time, right system at the right time. We know he's a good student, and maybe that's the key, Ketch. He's a student that's willing to learn. And if you put him in a situation where he can learn from that guy with those weapons at that time, and go get McCaffrey, like it just all comes together. And hey, as Cowboys fans, we all know who they are, and we got to see it up close and personal. And he very well might be a guy you got to get back through if you're trying to get out of the NFC. But Ketch, let me tell you this. If the Cowboys do get out of the NFC, let's play best case scenario. The Cowboys slay the Eagles. The Cowboys get past the Niners. You know who they might have to face then? This dude. Look at this stat. Lamar Jackson against the NFC. No big deal. 19-1, 41 touchdowns, 8 picks. Just football. What the hell, man? 19-1 against the NFC. Ketch, the scary thing to me about the Ravens and Jackson, in addition to the fact that he seems to be learning at an alarming rate, and he and Todd Monken are getting along, and he's what Monken wants him to do. But it's the fact that the Ravens are beating good teams away. They're not beating garbage. They're going up against teams with substance. They're finding a way to beat, and they're not perfect. There's little moments where you go, oh, my God, maybe Justin Tucker's human. Oh, my God, maybe John Harbaugh's crazy. Oh, my God, maybe that offense is a little clunky, whatever. But they just keep rolling, and he's 19-1 against the NFC. So
imagine Lamar Jackson playing with Kyle Shanahan.
Oh, God.
See, that's the thing. Like, I feel like Lamar, I have a respect. I feel like Lamar could do it anywhere, any team, almost with any offensive coach. Like, most of them don't even know what to do with Lamar Jackson. It's why I think what Kyle Shanahan's doing in San Francisco is so spectacular, because he's taking a 7th-round draft pick and he's getting out of him historically good performance. If you took an out-of-this-world player and put him with Kyle Shanahan, God help us. Thank God it's not happening.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. So something to keep in mind, Cowboys fans there, as they continue to roll. Baltimore continuing to win. They get a big win. By the way, shout out to, I think it was a former, is it Tylan Wallace? Is that his name that returned the kick? Isn't that Oklahoma State guy?
You know what? Guess who was the first guy in the recruiting industry to rank Tylan Wallace really, really high?
You? Look at you. He's one that ended up at Oklahoma State, right?
Oh, yeah. I thought he was a top 5 player the first time I evaluated him. I ended up dropping him a little bit in the rankings in part. There were he just comes from a program that sometimes just doesn't produce players. But the very first time I saw him, he was a nobody with 0 scholarship offers. And I think I ranked him as like a top 5 to 10 player in the state. And yeah, he's been incredible. And when he broke off that punt return yesterday, I had a number of thoughts running through my brain, but probably the one at the forefront was simply that guy has been that good making those kinds of plays for a long time.
He has. And why was he back there returning that punt? Because who was hurt? Devin Duvernay.
Yep. Devin Duvernay went into the locker room, I think in the first half of that game yesterday.
Yep. And he steps up and makes that return. And great. I would talk about the balance, man. For him to go, he was staring at the ground for like 2 or 3 solid steps. Any normal human goes down. He pulled it all the way up and then goes into the end zone. By the way, Ketch, just quick message to all the freaky athletes in the NFL and college football. Can we stop hurling ourselves into the end zone? Like, there's enough car crashes in this sport, fellas. I don't need y'all adding it. I mean, you're choosing, you know what I need right now? Shot to the kidney. No, man, you're going to get enough of those.
You know what I need to do, Chad? Test my AC joints and my shoulders.
Like, stop doing it to yourself. We're seeing more and more guys like flip into the end zone and do. No, you're going to get hit anyway. Why are you? It'd be like if a NASCAR guy celebrated by running into the wall. Like, no, you don't need to do that.
That's going to happen enough.
That's part of your life, man. Just don't worry. But yeah, that was an amazing play.
I'm so glad, Chad, that you just had that little mini rant, because I've been thinking it all season. It's like, stop doing that.
I don't get it. It's funny. One of my former broadcast partners, the great Kevin Dunn, he used to get pissed when people would jump when they don't need to jump. You know how receivers like try to look clever? They'll jump up in the air and then they'll drop the ball. And you're like, you didn't need to jump. Just stay on the ground. So it's kind of an accelerated version of that. But I'm just like, just run into the end zone. You don't have
Can I be honest? I'd rather they drop the football 2 yards short of the end zone and not even score the touchdown if it means they don't hurl themselves into the air. The thing is, you got to none of it makes sense. If you do the full-on somersault, you got to hope and plan that you don't land wrong. Yeah. But even just jump it, go outside, folks. All of you, when this show is over.
No, don't. Don't. You're going to break a hip and blame us.
Find some grass. Take a running start. Jump up into the air and see how it feels when you land.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, Ketch. If you and I went outside right now and ran at whatever our top speed is, Tylan Wallace was going easily like 30% faster than that.
30? He's going like 20 miles an hour.
When he made that choice, let's say he started to slow down. Let's say he's going, 18 miles an hour. And he chose to throw himself into the air. His body traveled 6 yards into the end zone. And he just crashes down and jumps up. I'm like, wow, you guys are unreal.
I mean, remember when Martin Gramatica hurt himself? Just not even doing that?
Yeah, that was the bit right. His brother, Bill Gramatica is the one that tore the ACL. And then Martin
did it?
Both of them, I think, have done it. But I think it was the one that was with the Cardinals that tore his ACL celebrating.
Stay on the ground, folks.
Exactly. Try to stay on the ground.
Stay on the ground.
Yeah. And also real quick, Ketch, before we get to Blinko, and maybe the play will get mentioned, but a little detail of the whole Travis Kelce throwback play that I don't think is getting discussed enough. Did you see how close that ball was to getting knocked away by the defender? Did you see how close that was? Because the moment he lets that ball go, if that defender hits it, guess what, gang? That's a fumble no matter where the ball goes. The ball could go forward, backward, as long as it doesn't go out of bounds. That is a fumble. That is a disaster waiting to happen. The fact that Kelce got that thing out before, I think it was Cam Lewis that was coming over, it was the margin was so close. It wasn't just about that foot being offsides. It was that close to being knocked away.
That reminded me of. Remember the game the Cowboys played against the Chiefs when they ran that it wasn't even a Hail Mary. The Cowboys defensed it like it was a Hail Mary, and they kind of ran the same play to Travis Kelce, except
he
just ran across the length of the field. They had the blocking set up, and it ends up working for a touchdown when I just
never should have. Yeah.
You know what? Maybe that was payback. The football gods said, you know what,
Hey.
Travis Kelce, we'll let you have that Hail Mary, whatever the hell that was, against the Cowboys back in the day. Not going to let you have – it was a bad – where I do agree with Mahomes a little bit, that play should have stood the time in NFL history.
Absolutely. Yes.
That should be on, when they go into Canton, when Kelce goes into Canton.
Yeah.
They should still show that play.
They still should. Yes.
It was so incredible. And to have the guts and the balls and the wherewithal to do it, that guy's incredible. We talked about Tandre Sweat, where I don't know that we know what we have with him. Kelce's the same way. When he's gone, we may go a long time without ever seeing a guy quite like that play the position, because he's not just a great player. He's got a great football brain on him, and I've never seen a player think that up on the fly in a game, let alone in a moment like that. The refs should have got together and said, okay, look, was he offsides? By like a foot. But did you see the play?
Yeah.
And look, there's enough time on the clock. We'll let Josh Allen get the ball back. It's what football fans everywhere want, right? Will anybody really be mad if Bills fans will be upset? Yeah, but Bills fans are upset all the time anyway. Let's just play stands. They did it in the Cowboys game yesterday twice. Twice they threw flags on plays that CeeDee Lamb's first touchdown, in retrospect, shouldn't have counted. But you know what the officials did? They were like, hey, it's prime time. Is anybody really going to be mad if we just pick up the flag? No.
By the way, did you notice they didn't tell us what either flag was going to be?
No!
Were both of them going to be like rub routes, pick plays? Is that what it was going to be on both cases?
No, one was a hold. One was a pick play.
That's right.
That
One
was
was
the one on the goal line. But like one was a Tyron Smith holding penalty, where if you'll remember, they showed the hold, and it was like, he's got a hold of the jersey. He tugged it like 3 times.
Yeah. For some reason, both times it was like, there's no foul on the play. Touchdown. Like,
they didn't explain it. They didn't say, well, the runner was in the yard. No. They just wait. The officials could have done that yesterday, and we'd been no worse for it. We just counted. All we would have cared wasn't that play badass? And the Bills would have got the ball again, and the officials could have done something wacky like 30 seconds later, and we could have just talked about that instead.
Yeah, you're right. All right, we're going to get some Blinko in here before the end of the show. But before we do that, let me tell you about sinus and snoring specialists real quick. You want to sleep better? You want to feel better? Do you have allergy stuff? Do you have all that going on? This is a weird time of year. It's cold. It's hot. Days start in the 30s and they end in the 70s. That can really mess with you, especially if you have allergy issues. They can get rid of your allergies for good. That's your QR code right there. My wife is really enjoying her CPAP machine right now, getting great scores, and most importantly, getting great rest. Maybe that's the path for you. Maybe it's more of my path, which was getting rid of the allergies, but also getting the balloon sinuplasty procedure. There are surgical and non-surgical options that Dr. Slaughter and sinus and snoring specialists have that others just don't have. So my path is a little different than my wife's. Yours probably going to be totally different than both of ours, because nowadays there's just so many different options out there. Definitely want to check into it. And again, I can't stress it enough. Do not be thinking about taping your mouth shut so you can breathe better through your nose. That's insane. You do want to breathe better through your nose, and this is the place that can help you do it. Sinus and snoring specialists. Feel clear, rested, and healthy. Check them out. All right, before we get out of here, we're going to play another round of Blinko. Ketch, do you want to go odds or evens today?
I'll let you choose. You went first on buy or sell, so I'm going to let you decide who gets to go.
All right. I think since I went first there, I will let you go first. I will give you the odds today. I'll give you the honor, so you go right ahead.
All right, I'll go first. As soon as our guy Blake hits the numbers, away we Go. It's already started. All right, buy or sell. I just wanted to start out with some portal numbers early on. If you look in the SEC, the schools with the portal numbers, Texas and Alabama have the fewest guys in the portal of anybody. Alabama's got 4. Texas has 7. But if you look at the top, maybe we shouldn't make fun of Texas A&M. South Carolina has 18. Vanderbilt has 18. Florida has 17. A&M, Arkansas have 16. Kentucky and Mississippi State have 14. This is a nationwide thing.
I start to wonder too, are we going to see this pattern continuing for the next few years in the SEC and in other conferences? So that's my first question when I saw those numbers laid out. The second thing I thought was 4 for Bama? 4? What's Georgia? 14, if I'm not mistaken? Like, that's crazy. The culture that's been built, the fact that he's only got 4 guys in the portal. I always imagine, what must it be like for Saban to walk into your living room? I can't even imagine what that's like for these badass recruits. All right, let's go back to that play in Kansas City. Look, I can like Mahomes and I can like Reed, and they can both just flat be wrong. I can't believe they both turned into children about that play. Fellas, I get that it was awesome. I get that you thought it up, and I get that it worked. His foot was a half a yard in front of the ball. This isn't a pass interference. This isn't a holding call. And it ain't the Des Bryant play. He was that far off sides. You got to call it. Deal with it.
Chad, you're 100% right. Officiating in sports is bad enough. We can't get mad at the officials when they're right. It reminds me of a situation that happened over the weekend in soccer. They called a handball on an Arsenal player that wiped out a goal. And Arsenal's fans' responses were, how did he even see that? Because he's got really good eyes? Like, I don't know. We can't get upset when they're right. Come on, guys. You just can't. All right. Texas basketball fans, I understand coming out of that Marquette game earlier last week that you're a little nervous about old Rodney Terry right now. Guys, I hate to go Aaron Rodgers on you. Relax. It's month 1 of the college basketball season. They've got a brand new roster. Look, it might not work out, or it might just take a little while for it all to come together. The only thing that matters is March.
Whew. College basketball sometimes in this era can be tough to watch when it's good. When it's bad, it can really be tough to watch. I've said this for years to Texas fans of sometimes watching Texas athletics doesn't feel like work to me, but Texas basketball in these last few years, it's felt like work at times. It's kind of feeling like work right now. I'm with Ketch. I would preach patience as well, but at times, tough to watch. It is tough to watch. But you know what's not tough to watch right now? The Dallas Cowboys. I'm so happy about this team right now. I'm so proud of them. They ripped the Eagles up by 20, and I'm choosing to be happy because I'm not choosing to think about what could be wrong. I'm not going to be the person on vacation that thinks about the end of the vacation, or the person that's driving a car thinking, well, you know, the car could break down at any time. I'm not doing that. The Cowboys are plus 10 in the turnovers. Their defense goes after the ball like a bunch of monsters, and I think they're one of the best teams in the NFL. I can't wait to see what happens next. Bring on Buffalo.
Chad, my concern is the rest of the schedule. Buffalo, Miami, a Detroit team that may need to win that. I think we weirdly may learn everything that we need to know about this Cowboys team before they get to the playoffs, because they're 10-3 right now, but the schedule does get difficult. And I've been looking at these back-to-back games against the AFC East on the road all season long, and I've been worried about them. We'll find out if I'm right to do so or to be so. Let's move on to my next thought, which in all likelihood, I'm just going to go out on a limb. Dylan Gabriel may win the Heisman next year at Oregon. And if he doesn't, it might be Cam Ward of Ohio State. Why do I say this? Because 5 of the last 7 Heisman winners are quarterbacks who've transferred. And you know what? Maybe it'll be Quinn Ewers. Not because he's great at Texas, but because he transferred. And apparently, Chad, that means everything.
It's funny you bring it up because I'm watching the Heisman ceremony and I'm thinking, when's the next Heisman winner that will only thank one school? That will only thank one fan base? All three quarterbacks. Of course, Marvin Harrison Jr. would have only thanked one, but all three quarterbacks are transfer guys. And they're talking about the story and they're thanking the first coaches, then they're thanking the second coaches. This is, if you're a quarterback and you're watching that Heisman ceremony, why in the world would you just stay at one place? Apparently, you just need to transfer. That's just kind of what it's all about right now. Crazy stuff. Congrats to Daniels, by the way. But not congrats to Doug Peterson. This happened in the NFL yesterday, kids, but you may not have noticed. Jacksonville's down 31-21. They score a touchdown with 1:33 to go. They go for two, down 31-27, and they don't get it. Now, they don't get the onside kick, so nobody's going to notice. But if you're down 10 and you score the touchdown, I'm not an old man to say to you, kick the extra point. Then you'll need the onside kick and a field goal. Why do I need to take the crazy pills? Don't do that. That's stupid.
Chad, I'm an analytics guy. I didn't even hate Tom Herman's binder because if it helps you make good decisions, use a binder. What I can't stand, and we've talked about this at length all season long, poor coaching game management does my head in. And I'm amazed at the number of coaches in football that can't do the little things correct when it comes to game management.
Hallelujah.
Chad, I don't know you heard about this, but a certain two-way player in baseball signed for $700 million. And it's not that part that kind of caught my eye. It's the part that he signed a $700 million deal with the crosstown rival and then said that his former team would remain etched in his heart forever. If that's true, why did you sign with the crosstown rival?
Ketch, just taking you back to the Heisman and the transfer stuff. When Bo Nix saw him say that, he thought, yeah, that's why I didn't transfer to Bama. If you're going to move, you got to go a long way away. I agree with you, and it's also one of the weird little advantages you get when you're not speaking in your native language. When you go through the interpreter, you can use it to say it in a lot of different ways. But yeah, it is a weird version of "you'll be in my heart forever." When you can literally yell it to them, it sounds weird. "You'll be in my heart forever." Yeah, that's a little weird. Real quick, after the Heisman, did you catch that 30 for 30 on the 97 Heisman? Go back and check it out, especially if you're younger and you're not like Ketch and me and you don't remember that run. Charles Woodson, Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf, Randy Moss. I'd forgotten Moss was even there wearing those badass sunglasses looking like he was in the Matrix. It was an incredible story. They only used archive footage, no new interviews. They just let the story play out in real time. I still don't know if they got it right or not, but it is one of my favorite Heisman winners.
I didn't see that 30 for 30, so I can't really have an opinion on it. So what I'm going to tell you instead are what my top 5 TV shows were from 2023 in the event that you want to watch some good TV beyond that 30 for 30 when it's all said and done. Number 1 for me, it's easy. It's The Bear on Hulu. Number 2, Succession, HBO, arguably one of the greatest TV shows of all time. Knocked it out of the park. Season finale, also HBO. The Last of Us. On Apple TV, Shrinking. Made me laugh and cry every episode. Number 5, also on HBO, Barry. There we go. I somehow was able to get all that in, Chad, with time to spare. And my final... Is this number 5 for me? Hold the clock for a second.
Yes.
This is number 5. Okay. Number 5 for me. I'm just going to say this. I am so lucky to be a fan of Liverpool soccer. It is full of so many guys that it's so easy to be a fan of. I can say in the almost decade-long time that I've been a Liverpool fan, that almost every guy on the team is a guy that you can root for and not have to think twice about. The one guy, Chad, hold on, Blake, the one guy. They had a guy
my 30. Take my 30. Take my 30. Go.
They had a guy like 8 years ago who got arrested for hitting his girlfriend. And guess what they did? They never let that motherfucker play for them again. I'm telling you, I'm so lucky and thankful to have one team. You know what Liverpool never did? Like bring a defensive end that beat up his girl and threw her on a bed of guns. Had to go through that as a Cowboys fan. I'm just saying, as Christmas is right around the corner, I'm very thankful to have my favorite team.
I'm going to end up with my Aggies today. Will Lee, I'm glad to have you. Some may joke about it, but man, it's at a certain point now where you got to take what you can get. Big 6'3" corner out of Kansas State. Let's hope the substance is there with a guy like that. Bottom line is the hire of Mike Elko, it wasn't cool enough. It may not be cool enough to totally save a class. It may not be cool enough to get some transfers. They're going to have to build it with just substance, X's and O's stuff. Next season, I'm looking to see if they can get to 9 and flat out, can they beat Notre Dame? That's game 1.
Got my eye on you, Aggies. Not so much with this recruiting class, but how they use the portal could absolutely define just how good this A&M team can be next year and maybe even into the future, because I think it'll give us a good idea of the salesmanship, the personality, the ability to sell what you're trying to sell. I think that addition was a good first step. There are many more to take for Mike Elko.
Yeah. All right, that is how we do Blinko. Ketch, real quick. I was trying to think about numbers for like A&M on the schedule, and we'll really get into this on Wednesday and Thursday after we find out what the SEC schedule will be. But before we know the order, let's assume the Aggies win their 3 non-conference games that aren't Notre Dame, okay? I understand. I get the App State joke everybody's making in their mind. I got it. But let's assume they get the 3, all right? Now, let's see if we can get them to 9. Arkansas, neutral. Is that a win?
I have to say yes at this point.
All right, that would get him to 4. How about at South Carolina?
It's a coin flip.
Okay. Mississippi State on the road.
I'm going to say no.
That's a no, okay. Auburn on the road.
I'm going to say no.
Okay. Florida on the road.
I'm going to say no, but I'm going to change my mind and say of the no's, they win one of the no's. So I'm going to say losses in 2 of those 4.
All right. So that would get him to 5. All right. Home games against Notre Dame, LSU, Missouri, and Texas. And by what you just did, you'd have to win all 4 of those to get to 9.
I don't know how good A&M's going to be yet. Like, it's really hard for me to say these. You know what? Bring this back up after the portal season's over, because if they're able to bring in another half dozen guys that can really impact the depth chart in the kind of way that the corner from Kansas State might, it's still a really talented A&M team. I don't know what the talent on that team looks like with really good coaching.
Yeah.
They didn't get it.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, and you know what else is fair? This chat is fair from Text Guy. An Aggie road game victory. Ha! How many have they lost in a row? Have I taught y'all? I've taught y'all at least that this season, right? 10. It's 10 now because they lost at LSU. They've lost 10 true roadies in a row. But you just asked the question, Jeff. If you take that talent and you put real coaching around it, because if you just watch what was going on around there between Jimbo, Petrino, and Durkin, they just weren't getting good coaching. At times from any of those 3. At times from all of those 3. So what is it like if Elko walks in there with substance, and if Klein brings substance, and if they're going to bring, the reports are, they may look at this Trooper Taylor cat that's the running backs coach at Duke, associate head coach, big-time recruiter, Texas ties, by the way, a Cuero guy, a guy he was at a Texas school back in the day. I want to say it was UTSA. I may be wrong on that one, but they may bring him in. So can they bring some real football? Because they're going to get made fun of for what's already happened. Somebody ripped A&M in the chat today. Oh, don't worry, Chad. They got a 3-star from Old Dominion. Yes, Javon Harvey, the receiver, that apparently is a guy they're going to get because they're losing commitments. They're losing other guys. They got to go after the guys they can get at this point. But can they turn them into real football players? That's kind of what we don't know.
I don't know what I don't know. I won't know, Chad, for the next 9 months, 10 months, what to think of the Aggies, because I don't know what to completely think about their quarterback situation. Yeah, I think Connor Wigman could be really good, but I don't know when he comes back and he's healthy, does he still need to grow up a little bit and learn something in games and kind of go through the stuff that Quinn Ewers has gone through, right? Like, it's hard to just show up and be good. Is he getting the right coaching? Is Colin Klein really the right guy? And then when you look at Elko, it's what he's being it's not too dissimilar from Steve Sarkisian. I did that this season. It was like, I don't know what to expect from Texas, because we're asking them to do something that the coach and the players and the program have really never done before as it's currently constructed. The ball's now in A&M's court in the same fashion. They got a coach that still has to prove that he's really good. They've got a quarterback that still has to prove beyond a few games that he's really, really good. You've got an offensive coordinator that's got to prove at this level, I'm that guy. And they've got to add personnel. And I think they will be one of the big mysteries going into next season. But talent, they won't lack. They have talent.
Yeah.
Can it all come together? And can Elko get out of it what Fisher seemed to be incapable of doing?
Well, and here's another key thing, Ketch. They do not start. A&M started so many seasons recently with just nothing. Just a game that's like whatever. Notre Dame's the very first game. It is the first game on August 31st. Notre Dame, you would expect, I don't think it's official yet, but they're supposed to get one of the transfer quarterbacks. Notre Dame is going to finish the season, top 15-ish, somewhere in there. So whatever happens in that game will swing too far one way or the other. Either the Aggies win it and people think too much of it, or they'll lose it and the jokes will really get harsh. But we may not find out till later in the season. But that is their very first game, first chance. That'll be on a decent channel at a decent spot. Notre Dame at A&M. That's Mike Elko's very first game against his former team as a DC. What does it look like? I don't know, but I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see. Let's see if there's some football substance there. Also, one of my wishes for next season, Ketch, I want to know if Mike Elko and Colin Klein can convince you that Ruben Owens is a 5-star, that he really deserves to be thought of in that realm.
You saw my call out of Ruben Owens in my 10 thoughts, didn't you?
I did, and I thought it was both like unfair and fair at the same time. I know why you did it, and I know what I watched this year. It's both. It's like, I get why you would say it. Your eyeball test didn't tell you he was a badass. I saw little moments where I go, ooh, guy's pretty damn good. It's pretty damn good. But did I see enough to tell me he's really good for sure? No, I didn't. And I'm hoping that the blame of that goes to Jimbo and Petrino, and it doesn't go to Owens ultimately himself.
The last time I saw like a 5-star running back that as soon as I saw him play, I realized we got it wrong. And this guy wasn't a 5-star running back, Jonathan Gray.
I knew you were headed there. I knew you were going to head there.
And do you know what Jonathan Gray averaged as a freshman in yards per carry? 4.7.
Oh, geez. Owens didn't do that.
Owens averaged 3.8.
Yeah.
And I came away, when I was looking at the numbers this weekend, I came away thinking Ruben Owens is going to transfer. He just is, because I don't know that I've ever seen a guy go from 3.8 to 5.8. Like I've never quite seen that kind of a jump. And I'm going to be honest with every Aggie watching this right now, even if it's just my man Chad, A&M's going to have a running back that's averaging 5.8, 6 yards per carry at this level. Like that's what it takes. And right now, Ruben Owens, 3.8, and the sample size wasn't tiny. He's got to be a lot better. And one of my questions about Ruben Owens when he was a high school prospect was, is he really 5 stars? Or is he doing this because he looks great against an awful level of competition? Through the first season, it looks like he was a 5-star because he did it against and look, I gotta lie. I also thought the same thing about CJ Baxter this year. Or I said numerous times, I don't know that I've watched him once this year and thought to myself, that guy's a 5-star level guy. But it blew what Ruben Owens did out of the water. And if Ruben Owens is able to turn around and become a difference maker next year under Mike Elko, and suddenly 3.8 is the Gilbert Godfrey thing in Beverly Hills Cop 2, it's like, well, yeah, and it was 3.8, but look at this other hand. What if I put 5.8 in this hand, and you'll never forget about 3.8 ever again? If it happens, I'm rooting for the kid. But the data is the data, and the data in year one was an abject failure, no matter how you want to look at it, period.
Yeah, I'm gonna hope it's forgettable data, but trust me, I get why you're looking at it. On Wednesday evening, the SEC is going to announce its full schedule. So by the time we get to Thursday's show, we'll know the full schedule for Texas A&M, for Oklahoma. The SEC power, Oklahoma, and the rest of that crazy new SEC conference coming up in 2024. All right, Ketch. Before we get out of here, you got anything else?
I see that Steve Wiltfong from 24/7 has an update on Walter Nolan.
Yes.
Says he had a really good visit at Oregon. His next visit, Ole Miss. It leads me to believe that man's going to get paid for show.
Walter Nolan is looking for some NIL, kids.
He ain't looking to go to the place where he can win the most. So far, Oregon, hey, if we see Louisville as school number 3, we're going to really know that man's looking for a briefcase full of money.
Here's also what I wonder. This is me selfishly as an Aggie wondering this. Once you've been at A&M and whatever they're doing in NIL, when you go out to fish at Oregon, Ole Miss, or wherever, do you either to yourself or out loud, do you use A&M against that other school? Do you go well, hey, the Aggies are no slouches in NIL. I haven't technically moved my stuff yet. Do you threaten? You know what I mean? Do you just be like, hey, look, I can still duck back out of this thing, and the Aggies could do that for me?
I'm just telling you, I know he keeps listing Texas. Nolan's father keeps listing Texas as one of the schools.
Yeah.
I keep hearing from Texas people that thing is the sweepstakes of all sweepstakes right now in the portal, and that Texas just isn't in the mix for that. So,
yeah,
guys, I know you want me to tell you that Texas and Walter Nolan might happen, but as long as he's visiting Oregon and then Ole Miss and maybe Georgia next, I don't know. Some of these things are not like the others, and he right now is visiting the schools that are most known, I think, for knocking people over in that respect. I just don't think Texas is going to get involved in the sweepstakes of it all.
And I also think, Ketch, because he's also a guy you've asked questions about, and others have as well, about what did we see this year from Walter Nolan, and is he truly an elite guy? I think once he gets away from what DJ Durkin was doing at A&M, I think if he gets in the right system, I think he's going to show off, show out, show everybody what it's all about. He was in a defense where at times they took the guy next to him and had him cover a slot receiver.
But you know what they wouldn't have done? They wouldn't have done that if he was balling at such a level that you're like, that guy can't. Tandre Sweat rotated in a lot, but when the plays mattered, he was on the field because he made plays.
Right. No, I'm not talking about rotation. I'm saying while Walter Nolan was out there, they would take a defensive end and put that defensive end on a slot receiver for the biggest plays of the game. That's dumb. That's dumb football. I'm saying he was a victim.
I'm not going to argue with you about your Aggies. You know more than I do. All I'm saying is I'd like to see that kid make more plays.
Yes.
But I'm not saying he won't ever make them because I literally did a thing on Tandre Sweat earlier today, and when he was Walter Nolan's age, he wasn't making any plays. And now he makes all the plays.
From somewhere, and D tackle, it can happen to D tackles where they kind of will disappear at times. He is caught right now. This is the extremes. He's somewhere between Daylon Mack, who you mentioned the other day, and what Tandre Sweat just did at Texas.
Actually, I have one more thing for you, Chad.
Yes.
I feel like I'm both going to get your hopes up in a dangerous way, but maybe a good way.
Okay.
According to Vipe out of Houston.
Yeah.
Like you know what that is?
Vipe out of Houston. I do not.
It's like they follow high school sports.
Okay.
They have a scoop that says 5-star quarterback DJ Lagway. Do you know who that is?
I've not heard that name yet. No.
5-star quarterback from the state of Texas committed to Florida.
Okay.
Apparently, they're reporting that Mike Elko and Colin Klein are making a late push and that Lagway is giving the Aggies some consideration.
All right. Fair enough.
Of course. He's legit. He's a badass. You just haven't heard about him because he's been committed to Florida all year long. So
yeah, and that's the next thing, Ketch. There's a few things I think A&M needs moving forward, and maybe this transfer guy from K-State isn't quite that level. They've got to have a couple of they need a flash transfer, and they need a flash on each side of the ball in terms of the high school level. They have got to get some like badass defensive player in this class to care about them. At least care, maybe not actually sign, but at least take the visit, at least get some buzz going. And then this on the offensive side, something like that. They've got to get somebody. I'd love them to sign him this class. Maybe it's not till the next class, but they got to have a little bit of flash right now because it's just not there. It's not there so far.
By the way, if Walter Nolan goes to Ole Miss and plays against the Aggies, is Ole Miss on the schedule?
Ole Miss is not on the schedule, I don't think. Think
bravo for you. No Lane Kiffin next year.
That is true. Yes. No, that's true. Right. Yeah. Arkansas is the neutral. We named the other 7. So no, Ole Miss is not on the schedule. No Ole Miss, no Georgia, no Bama for the Aggies.
Because I'm here for Walter Nolan signing for somebody that's on the A&M schedule next year just for the hijinks of it all.
Yeah, I am not for that. I am for the opposite of that.
I know it.
I want him to go to Middle Tennessee or Memphis. That's where I want him to go.
Hey, out of sight, out of mind. He can go to Oregon.
Yes.
Just stay away from the Aggies' schedule if at all possible.
Yeah, if he ends up at Arkansas, I'm going to cry a lot.
Well, he ain't going to end up there. I think you feel confident about that.
Yes, that is true. All right, we good?
We're good.
All right. Football with Friends is coming up at 3:30 with Alex Dunlap. Tonight, it is the Monday edition of The Outsiders at 9 o'clock. There are 2 NFL games going tonight, but there's only one winning team in those games. Miami is hosting Tennessee, and Green Bay is going to the Giants. Those will be going on while we're hanging with The Outsiders. So come on and join us. We'll get Chance and Bo and Jason's thoughts on football. And we're 3 weeks away from Texas and Washington, all the stuff from the weekend. Chance is a Bills fan, so we got to ask him about the Christmas present he got out of nowhere from Kadarius Toney's foot over the weekend.
Taylor, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, there's a chance in hell, but I don't know that there's a big chance.
Yeah. A, thank you for the super chat, $1.99, Taylor. B, come on now. Can't I have one thing? I can't have one thing. One and one. Can I please? I feel like Oliver Twist. Can I please keep Dominic McKinley and Terry Bussey? Please? 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 Just until signing day, please, 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 please.
Maybe, baby gift for Christmas.
Maybe.
All right, Chad, I'm good. I'm ready to go.
All right. Thanks to Blake, the super producer, for all his great work today. Thanks to you. We were up around 450 to 500 in that Specs chat at one point today. We appreciate your support. Like, subscribe, get the notifications. Jeff Ketchum, I'm just double checking. When they subscribe to Orange Bloods Live and our page, does it cost them anything?
No, we give them $1 million.
It's exactly. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe to the Orange Bloods Live page. If we haven't mentioned that, we should.
Like that lady on OnlyFans. It's free.
There you go. Like for free. Subscribe for free. Get your notifications for free.
If you like the page and subscribe to it, Chad takes his shirt off for you.
That is not true. That is so not true. So not true. Please do not spread that rumor, because that'll make sure that lots of people stop watching Orange Bloods Live. The number will drop by half instantly. Just cut right off. All right. Everybody have a great Monday until high noon tomorrow. We are House Divided.